Hello, everyone. It is Monday. What day is it? The 8th of December, 2025. I did an earlier video. I've been up since like 5:30, but I didn't want to interrupt it. And so it was William Bill Cooper that was, again, sharing some truths from so long ago, too. And but really incredible information just came out on Viva Fry. I freaking love that guy, and he has such good content. And the person he just had on is someone that was jailed. He was part of the January 6th protest group who I don't even believe he was at the Capitol, but anyway, he had a lot of information to say. I'm not going to share the whole video, but if I do, I'm going to be breaking it up because I don't like to do that to Viva, and I might even make this a premium video at some point. But I did link his original video. Take a look at his work. So again, I'm not getting paid to say that, but this is a really good interview, and it's people like Viva Fry that are actually courageous enough to get these people on, and it's so important. And what this guy said, again, it just further reinforces things that I've been trying to share with people, but understandably met with a lot of resistance because of how it sounds, right? When I talk about protests being more coordinated from people within the deep state or the steering committees and people that have gone rogue within their own agencies or industries in all levels of government, unfortunately, and so a lot of rogue actors, a lot of people try to cover up for their own errors and the errors of people again that they are close with, including politically, which is interesting. But before I do, I'm just going to get into some of my Instagram posts because a lot of stuff is coming out. I keep saying that, but it just I knew at some point. Within like the next year, I knew that there was going to be a lot more information that was being buried from the previous administration. I'm talking about in the US. And unfortunately, it takes the US before Canada wakes up, steps up, and gets more people emboldened to say things out loud that people within the US are saying in policies and bills that they're overturning or implementing, et cetera, et cetera. And again, it's not perfect by any means. I'm not saying it is. And I'm not saying that I trust Trump completely on things. I do think that, there's things that still need to be addressed, but it's been less than a year, and he's doing more to help his country, and we cannot say the same for Carney. And so I would much rather have Trump leading Canada than Carney. And anyway, but I'm not as extreme, I would say, within like policies and bills and things that are being said about the trans community. I think that it is a gray area, and I don't think that people that are trans should be denied being in certain government positions. I think that again, this is a case by case basis. And there was even a helicopter pilot. I think it might have been a TAC helicopter pilot who was trans, a male who transitioned into a female, and fully capable of doing the job. And right, and so like someone that had been of service, multiple deployments, etc. Like I don't think that he or she rather should get kicked out just because of being trans. I think that's absolutely nonsensical, and a lot of training, a lot of assets, a lot of money being put into this person as well. And so again, like I'm saying, it's not black and white. The interesting thing too, though, with the trends, since we're on this topic, is that especially like after 2015, but it's like really accelerated 2020 to 2023 time period, people that were transitioning, again, it was very, very high rates. So that you could see that this is more of something that was a trend. I know people are not going to like that, than like some kind of a natural evolution or natural, like more accurate stat on these numbers. And it was younger women that were transitioning into men at larger rates, but it was then the older men, so like the middle-aged men, more that were transitioning more into females, right? So you had less women that were in their 40s and above, for example, or late 30s and above, that were transitioning into men. And then the same thing was happening, like younger boys at lesser rates were transitioning into females during this trend, and it seems to be declining and leveling back out to the pre-2015 timeframes. It's still high, but anyway. And so equal rights, equal opportunity, and yes, trans people are humans. No one's saying anything about that. But when we start talking about children and transitioning children and all the issues that come with that, and then censoring detransitioners, censoring any medical, scientific, or government data that goes against this narrative, because again, there's people that have money in this as well. And so do what you want as an adult, as long as you're not harming other children or imposing yourself in safe spaces that you have no business within, like female locker rooms.
Trans.
This is I should have set this up. So former Olympic swimmer Sharon Davies perfectly explains why being pro-female in sports isn't anti-trans. Okay? Being pro-female in sports isn't anti-trans. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Women shouldn't feel that that is anti-trans.
So sport is obviously done with the body that we have. And there is a very big difference between a male and female performance. Now, women get 5% of the sponsorship dollar in the world of sport. That's all we get.
Wow.
So for every 20 stories that will appear in your newspaper, there's one story for women. So we get this tiny, tiny slice of the cake for 51% of the population. And then we were told we weren't even allowed to have fair sport. Now, WADA is the World Anti-Doping Agency. The whole reason for WADA is to try to remove any unfair advantage from people in sport. So if you want to have women have an opportunity in sport to compete in any shape or form, it needs to be a level playing field, which means that biology matters. And it matters at every level. So we can't turn around and say that we're going to protect elite athletes, but we're not going to protect recreational or pathways or juniors. What we must do is find ways to include everybody. You know, that's always been. Tracy and I love sport all our life, tried to make people do as much sport as we possibly can. I really believe that women and girls should be able to have to do sport. Do you know, we used to lose girls from sport at 15, 16. We're now losing them at 11 in this country. And we have to find better ways to engage them. And at the moment, we're just not doing it.
What is the solution then? Is it to have a male category, a biological female category, and then trans category, or how would you do it?
So we tried in World Aquatics to do that, and nobody turned up. The trans community didn't turn up. So
you can even say co-ed. And why did he have to say males and then biological females? There's trans men and trans women. It should be men, women, biological, and then like some kind of a co-ed. If you don't want to say trans because the stigma, just say co-ed. So people are willingly and voluntarily competing against the other biological sex. But like she's saying, which is correct, this has happened multiple times before, they don't turn up and they do not put themselves in these categories. Why?
So I think that the sensible answer is really a female protected category and an open, inclusive category where everyone can be, they can identify however they like, wear whatever they like, call themselves how they like, have, you know, be respected for how they identify. But we have a level playing field. Or there's the option of creating sort of third mixed teams where people are acknowledging that if they're going to play football, for example, the risk is going to go up to women getting injured. And we know that's one of the reasons why the FA protected the female category, because the risks of, you know, girls were getting hurt, quite seriously hurt, ending careers.
And can I ask about the campaign the union is going to be driving forward? I mean, clearly in swimming, whether you have a biologically female body or not makes a huge difference. I think in sailing as well, I do sailing, it's a very, very physical sport. But if you take sports like, I don't know, darts or snooker or shooting, it's less clear that the physical difference is important. And look, I may be wrong about that. And there may be experts in archery who say, no. But do you think this has to apply across every sport? Or would you take it sport by sport, depending upon whether the judgment is that the sex really matters?
Yeah, I will let Tracy answer that. But obviously, any sport that had male and female had male and female for a reason beforehand.
There is actually, so snooker especially, there's a huge difference between men and women, reach, stature, breaking power, misspent youth, sorry, signed off. But
about archery?
Archery, again, the pull, I've actually done archery, and the pull is very different. Everything about men and women is different, down to our cells, down to our very core.
Explain how
that was interesting.
Trans women.
It just reminds me, because on Friday, I'll put this back on, but on Friday I went to a Depart with Dignity for someone who was a legend with the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, and not just this guy, but his whole family. And so his parents were there, who I actually did know, had met when I was at RMC because I was part of the Sandhurst team, which was a team that competes annually at West Point, which I also did an exchange at. And so I was on the team even when I was in my first year. And incredible experience, but these people are phenoms, right? And so with the team, there's like 9 male and 1 female runner minimum, and you have to have at least 1 female on the team because it's co-ed. And so there's like over 50 countries that compete every single year, and there's so many different things. There's like there's firearms, there's like medical stations, there's assault boats, there's rappelling, there's my goodness, you name it. And anyways, and so like I was lucky where I was able to keep up with these guys, but the selection process just to get on this team was incredibly hard. And again, there was like it was the phenoms of the men and the women that that got selected, and so there were a few guys that were part of this team that were just like the fittest, like like beyond Olympic level athletes, and then even beyond that, they still even like they're competitive even to this day as athletes, and they've done so many different like Ironmans and CISM competitions and representing Canada, an astronaut, like just and so I was obviously not fitter than they were, right? And so and yeah, and so as fit as I was, and so I still see that as well, where there's definitely differences when you look at like competing and having like the same degree of training, but again coming at it biologically drastically different. And so anyways, it was good. And so his father was and still is I think, part of the RMC Alumni Association, was really, really active within with officers, with the military in general, not just officers, I shouldn't say that. And so many different events, and would even attend Sandhurst to watch it and follow along. And 4 sons ended up serving in various capacities. And their youngest son, who I knew from RMC, I was a 4th year when he was a 1st year. Sorry, I keep on messing that up. I was a 1st year when he was a 4th year, and he was he was like the cadet leader, right? He was a CWTO, is what we called it at the time, the Cadet Wing Training Officer, which was the highest rank you could be as an officer cadet at RMC. And this guy was a Patricia. Even in his 3rd year, he was badged, and like idolized this guy. He was just like a phenom of a man. And so another reason why I wanted to be a Patricia, even though I was from Quebec, people wanted me to be a Vandu. They're like, why don't you go Royal? Because it's closer to Quebec. But I'm like, no, I went West Coast. And anyway, so seeing them again. And then his brother, this guy's 2nd youngest brother, I also knew because when I was doing the Sandhurst team, he was one of the coaches, one of the trainers. And so I saw them all the time because we literally spent so much time together. Before we would go to school, we would do training and drills. In the afternoon, we would. On weekends, we'd be on the ranges or like training in other areas or on the waters, doing assault boat training and stuff like that. It was just so fun, but really hard. And so anyways, really incredible experiences, really nice time. I got to see people I hadn't seen in a few years. And yeah, where was it going with that? So anyways, I was talking about that yesterday, and I was discussing a video I had shared yesterday regarding COVID and other things. And the discussion was brought up about Wuhan and the Wuhan Games and the possible lab leak, and how I was talking about this to people, like even in that network, you know what I mean? I tried to engage them directly and indirectly for years, and then I finally gave up, but I saw them there. I didn't bring anything up. It was not the time. But I really wanted to, but I didn't. And just discussing like even Canada's possible involvement in not having the, like, not doing the right thing, right? So even with like the Winnipeg lab, we had 2 top secret scientists that came from China that were able to leave, and these people were not investigated. And so it's frustrating because there's a high likelihood that these are scientists that had given biodigital data, like data on Canadians and viruses and virology and stuff like that people in Canada, our scientists were creating or studying or experimenting with, etc. But even just having access to our information, like within these labs within Canada, could have possibly went back to China, like throughout their time working at that lab, right? And they were allowed to leave. There was no investigations done, and so people should have been looking at their laptops. People should have been looking at their mail. These people should have been detained, and this was not done. And so like it's just frustrating because there's even like regular innocent civilians in Canada that have generations of people here, and they get they're like unlawful illegal wiretapping, unlawfully illegally looking at like there's so much surveillance and overreach, but we're not doing it to people that are possibly involved in or complicated against humanity, that involve the world. I don't know, like, especially if this gain of function virus did come out of Wuhan, and and possibly from other biolabs as well, or replications done and anyways and things done where it did get transmitted to other areas, including the Wuhan Games. That was early on in 2000. Well, that wasn't early on. That was October of 2019, just after the rumors of the lab leak. Where was I going with this stuff? But yeah, because I can't prove it, and I'm like, the president of the United States can't even prove that these Canadian top secrets, sorry, these Chinese top secret scientists provided information to China that that they shouldn't have shared. I'm like no one, like, because it's too late. It's like this should have happened years ago before they left, and it didn't. And if it did, people have tried to get access to information requests on those details, and there's nothing. Delays, or like there's no reports. There's no anyways, can't confirm or deny, etc. All the same old. It's okay. I'll stop talking about that. It was just nice to see people I hadn't seen in a few years, and yeah. This was interesting. This is regarding what's going on in BC more, but it's happening in Ontario as well, like land claim attempts. And there's a lot of people saying that if this is something that happens, then they want, I'm not saying this, but people are saying that they will destroy their infrastructure. They will take everything they can out of their homes because they worked their asses to, to pay the mortgage, or they built it themselves. Like I'm talking about homes in areas where they're looking at taking away, and people being forced to move, and mortgages not getting renewed. This is literally happening. And so this needs to be stopped. Right. And so people are saying, well, if they want the land, we can put it back in the exact same condition it was in when we arrived. And I think that's fair. And then no more money. Right. So if you want land back that isn't even yours, that you probably didn't even, well, you obviously didn't live on yourself specifically, then, giddy up, start building. And if you can build there, why aren't you building in where you are now? Anyway, I'm not going to say too much because, again, I do have a lot of respect for obviously Indigenous culture, and I do believe that like there's a lot we can learn from them, and there are things that we have done in the past that that weren't above board by any means, but how it's been embellished and how we've been lied about now for decades. It's just, to me, it's appalling, and we just need to course correct. It got extreme under Trudeau, and it's not surprising that it did. And again, I would highly encourage people to take a look at that video I shared. I think it was yesterday on that, and just how important it is to address this.
There is a double genocide going on in Canada right now. The Canadian citizens we've always known and loved, the ones we went to school with, the ones we've grown up with, our friends and neighbors are suffering under severe systems of oppression. Canadians are now being colonized. I should know because I'm Indigenous.
I wouldn't say colonized.
And we are now witnessing what Canadians are now experiencing.
We're getting replaced.
For us, it's called colonialism, but for you guys, it's called neo-colonialism. Neo means new. Most scholars and academics understand that neo-colonialism is speaking about globalization. When the Liberal government of Canada talks about a population increase that is baby boom levels, they're describing millions upon millions of new immigrants coming into Canada, and they're usually from the same place. India. In the first wave of colonization, we saw wave upon wave of Europeans coming to Canada. The government of Canada offered all of those people a piece of land. If they could build a farm within 2 years, it was theirs for free. Millions of people came from Europe. They set up homesteads and they built farms. Now all of those farms had to bring their wheat, livestock, poultry, produce to market. Now all of those farmsteads, they're all spread out right across the prairies. And it was European families that operated those farms. Those families often had 10, 12, 15 children. And everybody contributed. And all those youngins went off to school, but they all had chores. And when harvest time came, everyone chipped in. Farmers helped farmers. And they brought their crops to town. They brought their beef to urban centers. And that's how you got small towns, cities, small at first, small businesses, banks, schools, hardware stores. They all came together and they contributed to what we call Canadian culture. That didn't happen overnight. That took generations. So all of them youngins, they grew up and they took over the family farm. They had marriages. They dated during high school. They had their Sadie Hawkins dances. And men and women, they were a courting. there was a courting going on, and there was plenty of marriages and plenty of children. And then came the World War I. But that didn't stop Canadians. Canadians went off to war and they did their business, and then they came back. And who was holding down all of those farms, factories, schools, banks? It was all those Canadian women. And when the boys came back home, family and kinfolk were waiting. And there was more courting. And there was more marriages. And then there was more children. And in all of that, there was more Canadian culture a-brewing. Now, there's no doubt about it, it wasn't all perfect. During all that time, they had that Indian residential school thing going on. Now, as an Indigenous person, I don't blame Canadian citizens for that. I have 25 plus years of study under my belt to understand and know the things that were going on back then. And so I can't blame my friends and their families.
And I would highly encourage people to take a look at the video I shared yesterday on this, and take a look at Frances Widowson, who I've shared before, PhD professor, and someone who's again not only an academic but someone who's very courageous and has been sharing truth. Okay, because this is obviously a touchy topic. I totally get that. I understand it, but again, the documentary that I shared explains a lot.
For all of that. That was official Canadian policy, the government, the churches. But they used you citizens to make sure that all that happened. They did it in your name. Now, I don't know how you people feel about that, but I wouldn't be feeling too kindly over it. It's not your fault. You see, politicians, they don't know what they're doing. But then we had the World War II. And now it was sons and daughters that went off to war. They came back home to their cities and towns and villages. They came back to their farms. And by this time, they came back to what they know as Canada. It was Canadian culture, born and bred for generations now. In a couple of weeks, it's going to be Remembrance Day. Sadly, there's not very many Canadians left from that era that are going to be doing much remembering. Thanks to the Liberal government of Canada, we've had massive waves of new immigrants who have done absolutely nothing to contribute to Canadian culture. But legally, they are Canadians. Canadians on paper, but they haven't put in their time. And I'm talking to you Canadians who put in your time for generations upon generations. You're under a system of genocide right now. There is a neo-colonialism that is happening to you. And you're all suffering under severe systems of oppression. Now, I know all about it. Your children are suffering from severe addiction, homelessness. We've never seen this kind of thing happening to Europeans ever in the history of Canada. Since 1977, it's been getting worse. Now, both political parties have a part to play in all of this. It's not more one than the other, it's both of them. All of the other minor ones are also playing a role as well. Now we're living in strange times. I've never been a conservative, but I believe that Poilievre is the answer. Now, I started talking about this neo-colonialism business 3 years or more. Poilievre is just catching up.
The interesting thing is that he's blaming, there's blame with the Conservatives and the Liberals. He's not wrong, but there's also, again, blame with the Green Party, the NDP, the Bloc, and what they're voting in and what they're allowing and what they're accepting. And but there are also tribal leaders that are lying, clearly lying and grifting, and get a lot of money to do so. And they are not helping their communities at all, making things so much worse in Canada, again, with the grift. And so he also has to call that out as well.
Up now, the Liberal Party of Canada is nowhere near the awareness needed to stop the genocide against Canadian citizens. Now, I know a lot of you people would like me to run for Prime Minister, but I have to assure you that I'm more effective and more helpful to all of you from this angle, not as a leader of a political party. In this system, everyone has a boss. If I entered politics, I wouldn't be able to say the things that I'm saying now. Poilievre would have one of his handlers handling me. And if I don't comply, they would get rid of me. It doesn't matter if I run for NDP or Liberal, and I'm not one to be handled. You ever hear the saying, it's like taking candy from a baby? When someone more powerful comes along and takes candy from a baby, the baby can't do anything about it. That's the way power works. Polyev isn't the boss. Everybody has a boss, including Polyev and our Prime Minister as well. We would like to think that our vote counts. We would like to believe in democracy. But our government is run by the well-paid lobbyists and lawyers because the political parties have to beg for money. They're not rich. They have to fundraise. And their membership doesn't have enough money either. So they go to the corporations. And the corporations never do anything for free. I'm talking about Loblaws and Sobeys, Walmart, Costco, and all kinds of other corporations. They're the ones that are really in power. This video might get taken down because I mentioned names. I shouldn't have done that. But if it gets taken down, I'll just redo it. The leaders of our major political parties, they're just figureheads. And there is a cost to power.
Yep.
When you keep taking...
For us, I mean, they get the money and the power and the titles, and people are like, Canada's like really, like, again, with cabinet. And we have like less cabinet ministers now that like I think it's like 20 something cabinet ministers, low 20s. And there are people like Dominique Bureau and Mene Joly and these people that have been like the OG country collapsers that have multiple cabinet positions now. So some people even have upwards of 3 different cabinet positions, 1 cabinet member. This is ridiculous to me and nonsensical. And these people are not experts in these departments. I'm going to reiterate that. And but they keep on getting elected and not forced to resign. There's no accountability. There's no checks and balances. I've done videos on how to mitigate that, and how like the senators need to get more involved in this process of appointing cabinet ministers, for sure, especially at this point in Canadian history. And so this is just before I get to the video of January 6th. It's very important. It's going to be mind-blowing. It's going to be so mind-blowing to people. And things are going to make a lot more sense from things that I've said for the last few years as to what this guy is going to say. And just want to make sure that there's nothing else here that too much significance. Oh, yeah. Intolerance. Oh, God.
Over 25.
So Zoran's ally and New York's most loudest and most annoying anti-Israel activist, Nardine Kizwani, explains how much she, like Mamdani, despises and doesn't respect the New York Police Department. Wow. He's talked about defunding them and stuff like that. And they all have. It's so radical. Here she explains to her lemmings that they are the reason police in New York City are understaffed and also the reason hardworking New York public servants will have their family holidays ruined. Just bad people who hate New York City. This is happening in Western countries, Canada as well. Like there's been people already starting Christmas events, actually in Europe as well. I think something just happened in France, a horrific event where there were multiple people that were murdered during a Christmas ceremony. And yes, there's protesters that are paid, they're organized, or they're just losers and radical and intolerant that are in major city areas right now. And even in Ottawa, we have like these protesters that are in literally like the urban area, suburban areas now too, like Barhaven and Nepean, Canada. I can't even make this up. Like you wouldn't even believe it. And these people, again, they have no lives, respectfully speaking, or it's a grift and they're getting money or they're indoctrinated. And it's a waste of resources and it's a waste of assets. And these people hate cops. They talk about killing cops, calling them pigs, all this disgusting stuff that they say. And yet they are protected by these cops. Actually, they're not even protected. Like there are people that are counter-protesting these protesters, or even people that are journalists that are trying to report like from the right wing or the opposite side, like the normal healthy side of humanity, trying to reason with these people. And they are the ones that are much more violent and attacking people, burning flags, Canadian flags. It's okay if you burn the Canadian flag, right? But like, don't try to take a pro-Palestinian flag off of a government building or a church that they're trying to put up, or a pride flag. Heaven forbid, you can't do that. And so more people that are protesting, these protesters that hate cops and they hate government, which is ironic. Mm-hmm. They're fully protected. And during major holidays too, or major events, these people are, first of all, they're already understaffed and having to do long hours. I know this for a fact in Ottawa, especially because I've worked with cops. I talk to them, and And then even my partner, like he again has close connections with people that are law enforcement like all over Canada as well, and they're saying the same things in major city areas, and it's becoming more of a trend. So Christmas time, they're saying the same thing. There's going to be people doing a lot of overtime. It's just going to be a lot more of a struggle to manage chaos that's going to happen around these Christmas holidays, because people hate Christians more and more. They hate conservatives more and more. Thank you, mainstream media, as well, for that. And this is like these are holidays they want to destroy. So after Christmas, it's going to be Easter, and on and on and on. But this is what they say out loud.
100 police officers.
She's like saying over 2,500 police officers resigned this year. Can you imagine that? Well, first of all, in New York, they have actually more law enforcement than like all of Canadians are military, and that was a few years ago. So it's probably way more now. We don't have the resources already. We need more cops. So if they're going to keep on resigning, like a lot of them are doing, or quitting, or moving to more rural areas because it's just a mess, then there's going to be more crime.
Resigned this year, a record number. One of the main reasons they gave is supposedly inhumane overtime hours due to these protests. So just to take a temperature check, how many of y'all would come out on Christmas Day and ruin their Christmas Day? So if y'all are down, we're going to take over Christmas and New Year's too. We're not going to let these cops, these politicians, these ignorant people, these media companies enjoy these holidays. Christmas is canceled! Over 2,500 police officers resigned this year, a record number.
I don't blame them. Well, I think like there are ones who have changed departments. They're in different states, different areas, and or they've gotten out and they're doing work and they're getting paid more money and they're not dealing with assholes all day and every day. The Freedom Convoy was one thing. January 6th was one thing for movements. These were not things that were extended repeatedly for months and months at a time, and like just consistently, like multiple times a year, because they're paid protesters. Anyway. So I have to do more research on this, but so allegedly Jared Weiss, a former FBI agent, was filmed repeatedly yelling "kill" cops at the January 6th riot. He was later hired as a senior advisor at the Department of Justice after being pardoned by President Trump. So another agitator. Wow. Oh, did I share it twice?
Watch this.
This is Chris Barber. He almost got 8 years in jail. He did get house arrest, which is disgusting enough. In his truck, I don't know what's going on with that, which is his livelihood, and he has a lot of memories with it. It might get destroyed because we have a two-tiered justice system still. And he had his bank account frozen. Complete massive government overreach, targeting again like peaceful people, and he's not a paid protester. He wasn't someone that was doing this like this was again for a movement because of how much overreach our government had and how crazy it got in Canada. People don't even understand how much overreach there was. And so anyways, watch this and then I'm going to get into the video.
Remember when the trucker protest was going on in Canada? All the trucks pulled up into town and wouldn't leave. Well, the way Justin Trudeau finally broke that was he called the banks and he said, find out who that trucker drives for.
Well, he had Carney's help because Carney, again, a banker with a lot of banker connections, was also the financial advisor, shadow one during that period.
And freeze all of their bank accounts. And if the trucker's an independent trucker, freeze all his personal bank accounts. And if the tow trucks refuse to pull them out, freeze the bank accounts of the tow truck companies. So they started mass freezing bank accounts, and that's what broke it. They couldn't access their money, and it broke it up, and that was it. And we looked at that and went, there are people in high places in America right now that fantasize about that, about being able to freeze Sean Ryan's bank account, John Rich's bank account.
And I was one of the thousands who had their bank accounts frozen.
Just wild.
This overreaching tyrannical
He's a hero.
government under control of Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau. All we wanted was a conversation.
Yep.
What we got in response was ridicule, name-calling, and turning legacy media against innocent Canadian patriots, simply standing there being proud of their country. Thanks, Sean Ryan. Thanks, John Rich. Amazing podcast.
Yep.
Watch this.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I do like Sean Ryan. I don't think he's a plant. I don't think he's deep state, anything like that. And I stand by that for now. I'd love to meet him. I do think he's had on a few guests. And again, it's still good to get people, provide them a platform and an audience so we can get the information that they're trying to share, where there's a lot of truth, but buried within that is misinformation and misleading information that get you off target. And he said, like, that female, whether she realizes or not, the CIA lady, there was a few things that she said that again, it gets people off target. And there's that older man, very smart, but again, with what he was discussing with the astral projecting and some of his claims, I think that gets people off target. And then there's obviously Stephen Greer, and evidence of paid protesters. People are still trying to say that there's no such thing as paid.
Who's this woman in the red shirt coordinating with local Atlanta police at an anti-ICE protest that escalated into a riot with tear gas and riot police deployed? For every new 100 followers, I'll expose a new group. She's a professional paid protester. Let me show you how. Here she is at the International Workers' Day protest. Here she is again at a pro-Iran rally, at an anti-Trump demonstration, and leading a protest outside Atlanta's ice field office. And she's never alone, always accompanied by the same woman who I've nicknamed Crazy Babushka. Here they are together at multiple Atlanta protests. So here's footage of me asking them what group are they affiliated with.
What does your shirt say?
It says Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm an organizer with the PSL.
Okay. Liberation for what?
Liberation for all oppressed nations and all nations fighting against U.S. imperialism.
Their highly organized and coordinated efforts prompted me to investigate their funding. And what I uncovered is a scary foreign influence campaign. The Party for Socialism and Liberation distributes funds to its chapters across the country, including those in Atlanta and Los Angeles. These funds are used to pay protesters like the woman in the red shirt to organize and attend demonstrations. This is the same group that is behind the recent LA riots. Notice the red shirts in LA matching those I filmed in Atlanta. Their funding comes from a $20 million donation by a nonprofit run by Nival Roy Singham, whose wife serves as a board member of that nonprofit. It's simple. $20 million is funneled to the United Community Fund, which then funnels money to PSL. The leader of the PSL, Claudia de la Cruz, also holds a leadership role in the People's Forum, a New York City hub where organizations like the PSL meet and strategize. Between 2017 and 2022, Singham donated $20 million to the People's Forum. Singham, a self-described socialist, lives in China where he regularly meets with Chinese Communist Party officials and attends their events. And that is how these protesters can afford to protest every single day. Who's this woman in the red shirt?
Yep. And they are losers, respectfully. Anyway, so before I lied. I said it was going to be after this, but I forgot to mention too that Tommy Robinson and Jack Lane. Jack Lane wasn't really on my radar as someone who was possibly someone that had infiltrated certain movements. Tommy Robinson, I've been calling him out for a few years. Like he does good work, but I do think that is someone who has infiltrated the conservative Christian movement, and he's very he's very extreme with whether his rhetoric is against Muslims, and specifically anti-Islam, and I do think that there are people like him and Jack Lane who claim that they used to be of a certain religious group an ethnic group, and now they're alleging only in the last few years, like they've gone like full board into like Christianity and Jesus Christ, blah 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 blah. And there are people that I don't trust when they do that. It's because like, listen, like it's not really easy for people to completely change their own religion, especially if there's like some kind of like ethnic lineage or tie as well. And then you have again, like even again, like so. I think there's possibly like people need to look more into being a little more cautious about interacting with these people. I know I know that there are multiple occasions during protests where I've shared that Tommy Robinson has given signals to law enforcement that is involved in like just making sure that the protests are safe and well in response to them as well. You have to manage the chaos. And so like I do think that there's more to it. I'm not alleging anything, but I'm saying that I'm not convinced that these people are the appropriate representatives or leaders of any form of a movement. They're not the Charlie Kirks of the world. They're not the Nick Fuenteses. I do think that these people are possibly plants, whether they realize it or not. I think they do. And I think they're doing what other people throughout history have done when they're trying to control a movement. It's you infiltrate it from within and you try to be the leader, like a good cult leader does. And so onto the video with the amazing, the one and only Viva Fry. Buy his book. He's got a child book. I bought it. Anyway, I just appreciate someone that tells the truth or gets people on that are really controversial. So anyways, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, many of you might not know exactly what Viva looks like when he does his intro golf voice because I use StreamYard and you only hear my voice. I look like this, weird and crazy. This intro video is fitting for today's subject matter. Enrique Tarrio confronting Fanon in the halls of a hotel somewhere. Behold!
You guys are assholes. Please just back off. You know who's an asshole? Somebody that says in sentencing, last one, I got sentenced to 22 years. That's an asshole. You were brave on Twitter, and you were brave on the sentencing, and you laughed when I got 22 years. And now you don't even want to look my way, you can send them here, right? Yeah, keep it walking. Keep walking. Come on, go.
Look at the Karen wagging her finger. Just back off. Mind your business.
This is certainly fun.
22 years. Imagine what it feels like to be sentenced to 22 years.
You were brave on the sentencing, exactly. You laughed when I got 22 fucking years. Now you don't even want to look in my eyes.
That's the better part.
You were a coward that day. You were a coward after.
Let's go home. Let's go home. You're a traitor to this country.
Yeah, so are you,
traitor to this country.
You're a fucking traitor.
Fucking traitor to this country.
That's why they fired your ass. That's why your own people turned on you, piece of shit. You ain't the fucking boy over here. You fucking
Go home.
Little failure. Run from me, motherfucker. Run from me. You fucking piece of shit.
He's trespassing?
Run from me.
Unless that man works for the hotel, he doesn't get to trespass a third party in someone else's hotel.
Oh, you can say that while you're over there, motherfucker. You didn't do shit.
I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny. Sorry, hold on. Who just called who a bald-headed bitch? Is that Ivan Rakelin? That is Ivan Rakelin. Oh, it's funny, but it's really not funny. When you're talking about someone who is sentenced to 22 years in jail. I mean, that's the better part of any living, conscious human's life. And the older you get, the more of the remaining portion of your life that represents. If you don't know who Enrique Tarrio is, I mean, there's nobody watching right now who doesn't know who Enrique Tarrio is. I refuse to believe there's anybody who's watching who didn't know who Enrique Tarrio was before knowing who I was. I've had Enrique on the channel definitively once, maybe twice. And I've met him many times now. And I dare say, at the risk of saying something that might be that might get me put in the maple gulag in Canada, I like Enrique. And Enrique is, in my view, a good man. And anybody who says otherwise, suck a lemon. I don't care. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about everything because the breaking news coming out of the Jan 6 continued, I want to say persecution at this point, the January 6th debacle is the arrest of the alleged suspected pipe bomber, a 30-year-old autistic man who lives with his parents, who apparently planted the pipe bombs, and his name is Brian Cole Jr. And the breaking news of the day, actually, let me just bring this one up real quick before we get into today's show, is that apparently the person prosecuting the case is one of the prosecutors is named Jocelyn Ballantyne. And if you don't know who she is, My goodness, you're going to know after this, because she was one of the prosecutors who prosecuted Enrique Tarrio so malicious, so in violation of civil rights, that Enrique needed a pardon to be free, to enjoy the rest of his one single God-given life. I've been ranting. So share the link away, by the way, because this was a short notice stream. I'm like, call Enrique last night. I was like, dude, you want to come on and talk about this? Because I think you need to. Because he knows this woman, this prosecutor, probably better than most. So share the link around. We are live across all platforms, it looks like. And we're going to get into it. Enrique, bringing you in. 3, 2, 1. Sir.
What's up, Viva?
Nothing much. It's a beautiful, sunny day in Florida. I mean, it's towards the end of the day, but nothing. Just we're going to get into it. Enrique, look, I think everybody knows who you are, but tell everybody who you are, and just in case they don't know.
Well, obviously, my name's Enrique Tarrio. I am the former chairman of the Proud Boys, and I was pardoned by President Trump on a 22-year sentence by a certain prosecutor and a certain president and a certain attorney general. And, you said something. You said, well, it's funny, but it's not. Well, you know what? 11 months in, I could tell you, Viva, that it is funny because I've had the last laugh. I have the last laugh because I'm sitting here, I'm out here. Justice is coming. It's coming slow. We need to fix some of these problems. Some of those problems we're going to address today. But I am the one, and us Trump supporters are the ones that are laughing last.
Well, hopefully, God willing, and maybe may it stay that way, because when the balance of power shifts, I mean, who the hell knows if they're going to try to undo Trump's pardons because of what he said he wants to do to Biden's auto pen pardons. It's like it's all out war, and I mean, you appreciate that more than most.
Yes, yeah, and I see they could try to do the auto pen thing on Trump, but Trump was very intelligent and he actually signed it himself. He didn't need an auto pen. But what I'm seeing in these past couple of days, actually what I've seen in the past couple of months from the DOJ is a little troubling. We finally got him. We finally got the J6 pipe bomber, which I'm dying to get. I don't know if this is the man. It could be the man. But that's not my concern right now. My concern is with the DOJ. So I appreciate you for having me on.
It's my pleasure. I mean, I'm sort of taking shit. It's not real shit, but people are like, why is a Canadian talking about our politics? Because everybody now thinks that you can identify the location or the origin point of a Twitter account, and they think they've discovered gold, not knowing that I live in Florida, pay federal taxes out here, pay state taxes, and even if I didn't, I could still say whatever the hell I want, but I've got not just an interest, a right to do this. And
well, I could confirm you're definitely not in Canada, because me and you would be in the studio doing this in person, except I'm in Yankeeville, right? I'm actually closer to Canada than you are.
I know. Well, I can confirm we couldn't do this in Canada because the Proud Boys are a designated terrorist group in Canada, even though they've never done anything of any form of violence in Canada. But that's that I believe that was part and parcel of the Jan 6 plot, which was to get Trudeau to identify the Proud Boys as a terrorist group, so that then Biden could say, look how bad this is, identified as a terrorist group up in the States, in Canada, which would never fly in the States, but they could then justify their persecution against
They want a Diagolon to be painted as a right-wing extremist group.
the others.
Yeah. And like our guys that lived in Canada at that time, they were the most apolitical group of Proud Boys that you could find. They didn't go to rallies. They didn't go anywhere. They just hung out and drank beer. And the reason why the Canadian government decided to call them a domestic terrorist organization was because what happened here.
And I will be clear, I am not affiliated with the Proud Boys, but there are people that are members of the Proud Boys that I have obviously communicated with multiple occasions, and these are people that they're literally not racist, they're not sexist, they are they just are fed up with everything that's being pushed and being indoctrinated on people within the school systems, within the mainstream media, and with politicians and stuff like that. So these guys honestly just get together and vent about that stuff more than anything, right? It's just like people do, going to therapy, group sessions for certain trauma and stuff like that. You know what I mean? To talk it out and stuff like that. And decompression. It's actually very beneficial.
The States.
So, I mean, I don't want to go into everything that we talked about the last time at length, because, but I need you to just remind people, you were in jail, you got arrested for the burning of the BLM flag in DC. Yes. They put you through trial on seditious conspiracy, right? And then I get mixed up between the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. They put you through trial, they convict you, and you get sentenced to 22 years in jail. And at the time you're sentenced, you have no idea that Trump is going to win, and there was no guarantee. Your life is you're effectively a dead man walking in prison. What does that possibly feel like to hear that in court?
If I were to tell you it felt a certain way, Well, one way I'd be lying to you, because it's kind of like a roller coaster of emotions. Some days you feel great, some days you feel hopeful. I mean, obviously that day I didn't feel very good when the judge passed down the sentence of 22. Although there was a little bit of satisfaction that I got from it, because I thought he was going to give me more. The government was originally asking for 50, then 33, and I got 22, so I was kind of happy. But all in all, we had
anyway.
We were breaking records. We're the longest trial in DC history, the highest sentence for seditious conspiracy ever, period, not just for January 6th.
Tamara Leach, Chris Babar, like the longest mischief trial in the history of Canada, too.
And the biggest case in the Department of Justice's history.
Disgusting.
Because of the allegations, we had access to evidence that most cases didn't have. Like most cases, like you went into the Capitol, yada, 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 you went by yourself or you went with a group of friends, you only get discovery for that group of friends around your circle. But since we were charged with planning and orchestrating the whole thing, we had access to the entire trove of discovery for all the cases, anybody connected to the events at the Capitol that day.
What did you see in all of what you saw? Or what was the most notable stuff? And what was the most egregious violation of constitutional rights in the process?
The most egregious violation of constitutional rights comes from the prosecution. I know for a fact that they did not believe that this story was true. They did with what most lawyers do. No offense to you guys.
Oh no, Enrique. There's the old expression that 5% of the 95% of the lawyers give the other 5% a bad reputation.
Yeah.
Everybody is right to hate 95+% of all lawyers.
They sat there and they had to lie through their teeth.
A few good lawyers
had to coerce and coach witnesses in order for them to lie too. Something that a lot of people don't know is there was a lot of FBI assets on the ground that day, whether they were paid informants or actual assets of the FBI. In our prosecution, there was actually over 50 that we can count right now. You know how many of those they brought to court to testify against us? People that were embedded with the Proud Boys for a very long time.
Over
0.
50 that he knows of.
The number is 0. Okay. I don't know if you do criminal law. There was actually over 50 that we can count right now. You know how many of those they brought to court to testify against us? People that were embedded with the Proud Boys for a very long time. 0. The number is 0. Okay. I don't know if you do criminal law.
No, never did.
If you're in a conspiracy, you know how odd that is that you have so many people embedded within the group, and 0 of them.
It's so weird that they did that with the honeypots, with the RCMP for the Coots trials, right? Like people that were going to lie under oath and embellish things again to paint a narrative. It's like there's just so many similarities. It gets a little triggering sometimes because like this was just crazy. What has happened and continue to happen with 0 accountability, and statutes of limitations. I don't know if it's almost up or not, but 3 years, 5 years in some cases, and maybe there's a way to have it where there's some kind of a loophole if there's like fraud or like the thing. Anyway. But that I know people that work at covert law enforcement. Again, I've been saying this for years. It's not a brag. It's to give people context. And these are good people. There are people that lie. There are people that try to radicalize people because they're bored or they're disgusting or they're not properly trained or they've gone rogue and they're just again like not professional enough to be in these jobs. But these jobs are very necessary. Honeypots, covert operations people, and all these people are necessary. They're absolutely necessary. And there are really good ones. I know really good ones, and they. And so they do hang out, obviously, with certain organizations or people that have barnyard meetings and things like that, making sure that things are safe and not going in a certain direction, and keeping like a finger on the pulse. And they can also give good information to people, right? And so whether they could have like assisted these guys in saying like, look, no one ever talked about doing anything violent. No one was talking about anything radical. No one was talking about this or this. And they were complying with law enforcement. They were reaching out to people within the area in order to make this as secure as possible. And again, all of this stuff. And they could have assisted with that, like good character references and be like, look, they didn't know that we were assets. They didn't know we were covert. And they were still, again, these guys were above board. And they didn't get that opportunity. But they got people that were lying. They got David Lazarus and Harry Dunn and these people that even lied under oath, and it's been proven. And I've shared the receipts on my videos. But he's going to give another person as well after this, where apparently they have other footage, probably the same stuff that I've shared over the years. It's still good stuff. It's just not getting out there.
were put up on the witness stand by the prosecution. And the reason was simple, because all of them said the same thing, that we didn't plan to storm the Capitol that day. You know who did bring FBI informants up to the stand? We did. After having to pull teeth nonstop with the Department of Justice, with Biden's Department of Justice, which doesn't seem much different today, to be honest with you. We didn't get information. They had FBI assets within our defense camp, something that should have been done. We had tapping of attorney-client privilege phone calls. It was a nonstop. I've never seen this. Like you grow up not as a lawyer, right? As like a regular like citizen that doesn't go to law school, and like you watch like the court shows and stuff like that, and you think that the court system works one way, and when you go in there, you're like, okay, well, wait, I'm innocent, and this is my defense, and suddenly the judge goes, no, that's not your defense. You can't use that.
No, and you, like, people don't appreciate that they were not infiltrating. They were infiltrating your defense and intercepting solicitor-client discussions, advice. I mean, it's stuff that you expect to happen in like Soviet Russia, in East Berlin, and maybe under Biden's DOJ. And I don't think people really fully appreciate it. It's like, oh, you guys are a terrorist group in Canada. They don't like, your modus operandi. You've sent some things on whatever, so you got what you deserved. They don't understand how badly the constitutional rights of pretty much every Jan 6er were violated. Whether or not they were guilty of something. It was a railroad shit show.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad in Canada, luckily, but it was still bad. And it was because people like myself, and again, just to give myself a little bit of credit, were calling it out even months in advance. And I was saying what was happening, what happened January 6th, again, really early on. And yeah, get it out.
And look, FISA courts are only supposed to be used on foreigners, right? They use the FISA courts against us a million times during our court. There were classified files. There's a lot of classified files in our case. It's not just a basic protective order that was issued by the judge. It's actual classified files, and we'll get into that, I guess, a little later when we start talking the meat and potatoes of it. But it was a very extensive, grueling trial that I thought at some points I thought we were going to win. At some points, I was convinced I was going to spend the rest of my life in prison. And
you're 40. You're 43, right?
I am 41.
41. So 22 years at 30 and 37 is effectively the rest of your useful life.
No, not only useful life. Like some people
die in prison.
Yeah, some people don't live too long. So,
but before we get into the meat and potatoes of the one name that is of particular importance for today's show, I appreciate the broad beef with Fanoni, but explain to people who might have forgotten who Michael Fanone was and what your specific beef with him was.
So he wasn't part of our case, although the government did try to bring him in to kind of like, he's very good on the stand. You put very good liars, and you don't put somebody that you don't know what they're going to say on there. But we were able to fight that off. Fanone is an officer that, unfortunately, I don't support it, that he got tased in the neck, right? He got tased in the neck. He got dragged out or whatever. At that point, like I don't think what happened to him was right. I'm just being honest here. That's not my beef with him. My beef with him was what he became after the fact. He became a mouthpiece for the left and a mouthpiece for CNN because that's who hired him. But my personal animus with him came when he sat in court. My mom's there, and she's having a hard time. I have a really close relationship with my mom. You've met her before.
Yeah, I met her at the event in Florida.
Yeah, I'm a mama's boy. I know somebody's going to clip that out, but I'm very close to my entire family. But me and my mom are really close. And while my mom sat there and wept, because her son was getting fucking railed by the United States government, he left in her face. So I was at a hotel, and Officer Fanone was there. And I'm not going to say that I didn't know he was there, but I went to confront him. I wasn't going to put my fucking hands on him. I had already done 3 years in prison. I'm not going to touch somebody, but I wanted to see what he had to say. And he couldn't press the close button on that elevator door fast enough in that video. He's sitting there. There's a video where he's sitting there, and you can see him mashing the close button so he could so the berating can stop. He wanted it to go away.
I want to.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I want to believe that there's a part of him where he's ashamed to look at you. And he wasn't responsible for your sentence, but relishing in an injustice that is stealing a man's life. And then you're forced to confront that later on when more of the truth has been told, but you're forced to confront your own moment or period of absolute evil. He had to have been ashamed, and you're the mirror of his shame.
Well, his shame is pretty evident, right? He lives on a mountain, an isolated mountain in West Virginia. He said before that if the FBI comes for him, that he's going to go out guns blazing. He can't walk down the street. He can't, and you know what? That brings me great joy. Usually it doesn't, but it brings me great joy. He should live with that shame for the rest of his life. You know, because he's a traitor. I told him that day he's a traitor. Not
He's
for
a
what he
traitor,
did that day, right? Like he got tased in the neck. I'm not going to take that away from him. You know, but for what he did after is what makes him a traitor. He got a whole bunch of innocent people and he tried to lock them up. I encourage your viewers, because if not, I'll be here for hours talking about Fanon. I encourage your viewers to go ahead and like Google what Fanon said in some of these trials and some of these sentencing. Some people were sentenced to like 15, 14 years. And he was like, oh, they should have gave him more. They should have gave him life. You know, people that walked in and out of the Capitol, didn't put their hands on cops, didn't break anything, didn't even plan on going in there. So he should live with that shame, and I'm happy he does have to live with that shame. And he has to appear remotely now when he goes on his news shows and stuff like that, because of things that happen like that in the elevator. It kind of reminds you of the movie The Shining, when Jack Nicklaus is putting the axe to the door and he's sitting there in the corner. He should live with that shame, and I'm happy.
No, it reminded me of the scene from The Princess Bride where the witch is boo, boo. You had love and you gave. I don't want to start any conspiracy theories. Do we know who tased him? Like, was it a legit protester, or is there?
Yeah. It's actually somebody that I know. I met him in prison. His name's Daniel Rodriguez. And, you know, look, Daniel doesn't shy away. He's like, look, you know, whatever, I shouldn't have done that or whatever. But also Daniel is also in his feelings about it, right? Because of what happened after.
Well, yeah, he shouldn't have done that. But you don't lie and go after thousands of other people that had nothing to do with that event because you're a salty asshole.
And he has a right to feel that way. He has a right to, we could be objective. We could put things in compartments and be like, well, you know what? You shouldn't have tased him in the neck. But he shouldn't have gone as hard as he did on everybody else. So I like to put my feelings in compartments. I'm not binary by any means. I could put my feelings aside and judge things by the evidence and the evidence alone, unlike the jury of my peers that judged my case and said that they could not put those strong feelings aside.
22 years for seditious conspiracy when you didn't step foot on the Capitol that day, when you were quite clearly infiltrated by feds and other agents. I guess, I mean, that is the good segue now into this prosecution and the role that this. Oh, go ahead. What do you want to say?
Some of those feds actually enjoyed being Proud Boys. I have all their messages. they're like messaging their handlers. They're like, hey, actually, this is a great group of guys, man. I'm going to go out with them on Thursday. Like that was like the whole thing.
Okay, some will do that. Like just again to like be more in and get more access, but some guys actually legitimately they do really like again some of these guys are just veterans like law enforcement or veteran military or whatever, and you know, and they just yeah, they're not bad guys. There are some people within these organizations too that are radical and extreme. It's nowhere near like in Canada. It's nowhere near the level it is in the U.S. obviously, and yeah,
we were laughing. We're like, these guys like,
true.
got paid to infiltrate the Proud Boys, and they actually like us, and they actually defended us when it was like, oh well, did they plan anything? The FBI assets were like, no, they didn't plan anything. They're a bunch of drunks. You know,
it is amazing what people's impression of the Proud Boys is based on what they've read in the media versus what it actually is and who they actually are. And I was sort of I was a victim of that as well. Enrique, you were public enemy number one, and I thought you were devil incarnate. Not quite so much, but meeting you and getting to know you, it's eye-opening. And then you understand. Then when the media tries to vilify somebody, you have to take 5 steps back and either withhold opinion until you have good reason to believe something, or meet them yourself. Yeah. So how long was your trial again? It was 9 months.
6 months. 6 months.
6 months.
Actually, it's technically, if we're talking the post-trial process, it's still going.
God.
In what
motions? We're actually putting some motions in.
Good.
I'm the only one commuted out of us 5. I mean, I'm the only one pardoned out of us 5. 4 of the guys aren't pardoned; they're commuted, so their cases are ongoing. And then on top of that, even if I'm pardoned, I could ask for a dismissal because a pardon absolves you of everything, but doesn't technically erase the record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like it's still there. They can't use it against you. And based on a couple things that I'm going to tell you now is one of the reasons why we're putting in a motion to dismiss, including myself.
And the commutation, they remain felons, and with all of what that entails legally and financially and economically.
Yeah.
All right. So I mean, let's hear in your prosecution, the woman whose name now Ballantyne is her last name. What was her first name?
Her full name is Jocelyn Ballantyne, and she was the head
Ballantyne.
of the Capital Siege Division, right under Matthew Graves, which was an attorney for the District of Columbia. And I was like, man, she's going to be one of the first people they fire.
Can you explain what that means? She's head of the Capital Siege Division. What does that mean?
So the DOJ, once January 6th happened, put together this task force. Well, not task force. They put together this team of attorneys within the DOJ, and it was called the Capital Siege Division. The FBI also had a Capital Siege Division. They all worked together. Actually, as a matter of fact, I think the Capital Siege Division was comprised of DOJ and a whole bunch of different agencies working together to violate the rights of Americans. But she was at the tippy top. of this whole thing. She also was a person that ran all the informants in all the cases, all the FBI assets, all the DOJ assets, all the DHS assets, all of that, all the undercover Metropolitan Police Department undercover agents, the Park Police, anybody who was undercover, she's the one that ran all of their parts of this capital siege division. It couldn't go. It could, if you had a CHS in your trial, it had to go through Jocelyn Valentine. And what I'm going to tell you at the end of this is going to blow you away, because I don't think I've said this publicly, but we'll keep going.
I don't know, man. I might not be able to think straight until you tell me what it is. Now, don't forget to tell me, Enrique.
I won't. No, I got the list right here.
She's. I'm just trying to find a picture, and there seems to be another Dr. Jocelyn Valentine that I don't want to mistake with.
You won't find it. We've been looking for it. I've been looking for it for an article I'm writing, and I can't find. There's no public pictures of her.
Okay, if I may just ask, like broadly speaking, old, young, white, black, like who is she?
White. I'd say mid-50s. We used to call her ramen noodles because her hair looked like a bunch of ramen noodles. It was like this curl that always looked like it was wet. Always had on horrible shoes. I think there's a couple people in the audience that are going to appreciate that. There's a couple people that's the first thing they told me. They're like, "Have you seen her shoes?" So apparently she has a bad shoe collection. But that's just me poking. There's so much wrong with this woman.
Well, so and what role did she play in your prosecution, and in who else's prosecution did she also play a role?
She played a role in every single prosecution when it came to January 6th. And specifically in our prosecution, she had to come in multiple times and pro hoc vici into the case when it came to these CHSs, when it came to the disclosures of like some of these link messages, it's kind of like a signal telegram that the FBI uses to communicate with each other, which is an encrypted chat platform that has auto delete function, which is weird. But anything that had to do above your typical prosecution, she would come in. She was a puppet master of our. She was the head prosecutor in our case.
And pro hac vice means that she's being recognized as counsel where she's not otherwise certified in that state or district. And as far as you understood, was she representing the CHS, the confidential human sources, or was she sort of the puppet master of the entire prosecution?
She was a puppet master of the entire prosecution, so she would come in and out. I forgot why that was, where she had to come in and out, because there was a whole team, dude. I mean, the table for the prosecution was huge. So much so that they had to take the entire prosecutor's table, which consisted of, I think, like 10 chairs, and then the first pew on the prosecutor side, on the government side.
I was just listening in terms of the Brian Cole. They were saying this something similar, that there's 6 prosecutors and Brian Cole is sitting there alone with his own attorney. Who
I could probably name all of them.
And I'm just trying to see who appointed her. It is interesting that it's very difficult.
I actually pulled up. I don't have it available. She goes back to the DOJ as far back as 2010. There's no records before that. I don't think she's old enough to assume that George Bush appointed her. So it's very likely that she was appointed by Obama. She definitely predates the President Trump.
And she was. I'm going to now, as you talk, try to figure out. I didn't realize that she was involved in the Michael Flynn prosecution, which is now going to make some even more sense. Because, in as much as I didn't live through this the way you lived through it, I didn't live through it the way others who were following it at the time lived through it. Julie Kelly puts up the post and says, "What the hell is this woman still employed for? Let alone the prosecutor here." Now I'm going to go just refresh my non-existent memory of what her role was in the Michael Flynn judicial debacle, which I covered thoroughly. But like, I'm not good with names to begin with, except for that judge whose name was Judge Emmett.
On what case?
In the Michael Flynn case back in the day, the judge that refused to accept the prosecution's withdrawal of the charges. So she's not an incidental character here. She's a main player, a main decision maker.
She's always had a high ranking job at the DOJ. She still does.
Okay, this is what we're going to get into now. You have to explain what she did in your I'm calling it a persecution, whether people like it or not. What she did that violated ethics, that violated the Constitution, that violated your rights for full disclosure. Because when you describe it, I don't think people understand or even know. It's going to blow their freaking minds what she did. I like that.
I love it. I love it. This is like my mobile mic, and I kind of want to switch everything out because I just touch it and it's
that's amazing.
So let's start. There's really 5. Let's go through 4 of them. I want to talk about like my personal issues with her when it came to my case that aren't really personal. I'm going to talk about her failures in our case, right? And the first thing is the late disclosures of the CHSs, the confidential human sources, whether, again, they're assets, paid informants or unpaid informants. We had to pull teeth, not only pre-trial and during the trial, to get the names of some of these CHSs. That fight is still going on today. As a matter of fact, the last time we got a disclosure, okay, we got sentenced back in 2023. We got sentenced in September of 23. The last disclosure that we got for a new CHS was November of 2024, after the election, right? So even after we were sentenced, we're getting new exculpatory evidence in our case, right? As of our trial, we had found out through four, the judge forcing her 4 times to disclose it. 19 Department of Homeland Security CHSs, 8 from the FBI, and 13 undercover Metropolitan Police officers, right? After the fact, that number nearly doubles, and we nearly have 60 CHSs within one case in one January 6th case. Okay, that is still going on today. That is a failure. That is a Brady violation, right? That merits a mistrial every time it happens.
Yeah, and you're using the word failure. I would have used violation, so that it's not a question of incompetence. It's a question of malice in terms of what is not being
It's
turned
not like,
over.
oh wait, hold on, we just found another one. No, it was, and these things, some of these FBI disclosures, right, aren't just they don't have a protection order from the judge. You know, I don't know if you want to tell people what a protective order is, but the judge basically says this cannot be disclosed publicly.
There's no seal or gag on the identities. You're asking for basically to know who the CHSs were, the confidential human sources that were involved in infiltrating, spying on the Proud Boys. There were 60 in one case.
Yeah. Some of those are considered classified. That's a whole other level of when somebody is considered classified, or the information that they is considered classified, I can't even know. My attorneys have to go walk in, and they walked into the FBI field office down there in South Florida, right at the county line. And they walked in, they had to put their phones down. They had to get a pen and paper. They were given a pen and paper by the FBI, and they were given terabytes of information to go through on one computer under video surveillance. And they had to write down all the information they had, and they couldn't write down identifying information. Those notes, now when they leave, they have to give in those notes, and somebody has to go ahead and go through those notes and say what they can leave with and what they can't. That is a level of classification that goes beyond what a protective order is. Some of those people, I don't know who they are. Okay, some of them I was able to identify them because they're like, oh, well, one of these people was next to him on December 12th, and I was able to identify them like that. But my attorneys, by law, couldn't tell me who they are or couldn't give me identifying information. Mistake number 1. The spill, and I'm using the word spill because this is the word that Jocelyn Ballantyne used while sitting in front of the judge. The spill of classified messages. So in our case, and I go back to what I originally said, these link messages, which is a messaging system between the FBI, they're supposed to give us all of that are relevant in our case. So what ends up happening is that this FBI agent, Nicole Miller, went through the Excel spreadsheet and deleted the messages that she said was not relevant to our case. That might have had something to do with another case. Maybe.
If I may I pause you there? Was there any judicial oversight that you knew of as relates to what they were unilaterally deciding may or may not have been relevant to your case?
No, it was a trust. It was like, we got to trust the DOJ. We're
right.
like, well, we don't trust the DOJ. We said that a million times. And this is why we said it. So that Excel sheet gets turned over to Jocelyn Ballantyne. Jocelyn Ballantyne apparently does not check this thing and gives this to the defense. So we're sitting there with our computers going through evidence while this case is going on. And one of the guys is like, hey, what's this thing that says hidden? And he clicks the thing and it unhides a whole bunch of messages. She forgets to delete the messages. She hides them. And within those messages that are hidden, because there is messages that were deleted, within those messages that were hidden, she sends a message to destroy 338 pieces of evidence. That's what she said in the message. I have authorization to destroy the 338 pieces of evidence.
Straight to jail.
She admitted
say it like that guy does.
to tapping into attorney-client privilege phone calls of multiple members of my team. Right. Well, not my team, my guys.
Yeah.
So she's listening into trial strategy, things like that. And she's disclosing the information. She's disseminating the information that was in those messages.
If I may pause you on that,
Go ahead.
were these discussions that were being held in prison where they're making the calls from the landlines and they did it from the wrong landline that said this is an unsecure line, we might be listening in on this? Or was it
This included both on those lines that are supposed to be secured.
Yeah, okay. Because for everybody who doesn't know, and I know this, I've been speaking to a few people in prison, they say this line is monitored. So, if you want to talk with your attorney, use another number. So she was doing this surveilling set aside the legality on the one hand, on both ends, where the one where it was supposed to be secure between solicitor and client.
Yes.
Unfucking believable, Enrique.
And that includes a messaging system that says that it's safe to use between attorney and the client.
Right? Yeah, how that's not an immediate, not mistrial. How that's not an immediate.
I want you to keep using that word mistrial, because I think that's where I'm going with all of this. Right? These disclosures, these late disclosures of this DHS and CHSs is grounds for mistrial.
Well, the mistrial, I think you could be tried again depending on the circumstances. This is violations. It should be throwing out of the suit. You're like, it should be basically a judicial pardon to some extent. You violated rights so badly, you're not getting a second kick at the can this time. But set that aside. So Jocelyn Ballantyne, she gets the document that her team is unilaterally deciding what's relevant, what's not, putting things on hide. She gets the file, doesn't delete them, sends it over to you, not realizing you could just unhide it. This sounds exactly like what they did in Colorado with the passwords. Yeah. And you see what was clearly, on the one hand, relevant stuff that they were unilaterally hiding, and violation of solicitor-client privilege in terms of surveillance on the defendants and their legal strategy.
Yes.
And she's not only not in jail, she's not only not fired, she's still is the prosecutor on this case. I had to refresh. Let me bring this one up just for 1 second here.
Go ahead.
Jocelyn Ballantyne, her involvement in Michael Flynn's case. I just wasn't paying attention to names. Signing multiple court documents, such as memos and responses to Flynn's motion to withdraw his guilty plea, where she argued against ineffective counsel. Submitting evidence, including FBI notes from agents, Peter Stroke and Andrew McCabe, which contained inadvertent alterations like added sticky notes with estimated dates. Providing redacted FBI reports and other materials. Okay, whatever. Declining to sign the DOJ's May 20 motion to dismiss. This is a woman, is a partisan, corrupt, and some might even say criminal, who is still employed at the DOJ and prosecuting the Jan 6 pipe case. Let that simmer while Enrique continues to discuss what Jocelyn Ballantyne did in his case.
I mean, I briefed all of this. I could be here all night. There's a lot more than just this paper right here, dude. But so here's another thing, and I think this was one of the most egregious things that I saw in this case. So for those that don't know, when you're pretrial, you got to give a witness list, right? And the defense always has some flexibility with the witness list. But we turned in the witness list. So let's talk about two witnesses. The first one was my main witness, which was a 22-year lieutenant and commander of intelligence in the Metropolitan Police Department that I was communicating with about the whereabouts, like where the Proud Boys were going to march, and kind of to keep us safe or whatever. As soon as I put him on, like, who would be the best one to give me, like, who would be my lead witness that would say, well, he's not trying to overthrow the government because he's communicating with the government to keep people safe, and that all came out. They knocked on his door 2 days later after I pulled out that witness list, and they're like, hey, you might not want to testify in his trial because you're going to probably have to testify in your trial. Well, after our trial, he's obviously pled the fifth and said he wasn't going to help me out anymore. They came and they got him, and they sentenced him to 18 months. We're currently trying to see if we get him a pardon. His name is Lieutenant Shane Lamond. I encourage you guys to search for him after this pod. But this is the more egregious one. So we gave that list in late November. We started the government's case closed in like March or April of the following year. So I said, okay, let me bring in another witness that was on the witness list, and let's pretend we closed out the day for trial, and my next witness was going to come in tomorrow morning, and she was going to take the stand and testify. Well, at the end of the day, Jocelyn Ballantyne and Jason McCullough, the prosecutors in the case, pulled my attorneys aside and being like, hey, about that witness that you're going to bring in tomorrow, yeah, that person's an FBI informant. And my attorney's like, what? Wait, why did you wait till last minute to tell us? Well, here's another thing. You can't ask her about her time as an informant for the FBI while she's on the stand. And my attorney pulls us to the side, like before we get on the bus to go back to the prison. And he's like,
this is important. He had an FBI informant that he had no idea, even when he wanted her to be a witness on the stand. So this is what I was saying, that people weren't understanding this before. There are people, unfortunately, I don't know why, but they do this. I don't agree with it. I've called this out now for years. And like the honeypots from the RCP and things like that. And people could have possibly went to jail, a lot more people during the Freedom Convoy than what happened. There were people that I was part of so many different networks on Signal, on Telegram. Again, this is all verifiable, so I don't care to say it. It was just such a friggin' overwhelming time. And I was having arguments with people because people were getting angry because there was so much going on and it just kept on escalating and getting worse. And people were feeling desperate. And people, again, with the isolation, with the lockdowns, with the mandates, with the VAERS, with all of this stuff and all the bullshit, even with what was going on with Russia, Ukraine being bullshit and the Afghanistan pull out, there was just so much and people were overwhelmed. Obviously, the Ukraine war, Russia stuff was like pre-Freedom Convoy. It happened just afterwards. But again, there was just a lot of stuff and being thrown at us. And again, it was bullshit. And these guys were getting upset, and I was like telling them, like, you fucking idiots. I was, again, I don't mean to say it like this, but like I'm doing this because I would have like these voice recordings that I would share with people again, and because they were getting pissed off. They're like we try to be peaceful, and they're trying to escalate, and some guys just get upset, right? And I was someone that was part of OSIS, which is Operational Stress Injury Social Support Network. I did that for years. I volunteered. People say things out of frustration sometimes, and they don't mean it, and you shouldn't try to like monopolize on that or exploit that or anything like that. You have to call it out. If they're talking dumb, you know what I mean? Sometimes, honestly, most of the time it is. You'll get the rare person, and again, you have to feel that out. That's actually on the brink of becoming more radicalized and stuff like that. And again, you keep your finger on the pulse, you watch it, and you don't try to put them over the edge, which some people are trying to friggin' do, right? And or pretend that they're best friends, like even again through trial process, so that they can get information from you, thinking that you're a trusted source, and everything you're talking about to your lawyer and stuff like that as well, and it's getting fed to the friggin' prosecution, which is disgusting. I can't believe people did this. I warned people. I did. And so at least I could say that I tried everything. And I wish I could have talked to those guys from Coots. But again, that was Alberta. I was saying to some people there, don't get duped for this. There's going to be people that are part of your groups. Again, that they're going to be lying. They're going to be painting like the picture in a way that's going to push us as some kind of a right-wing, white supremacist terror group, misogynist, sexist, et cetera, and there's going to be Antifa, and there's going to be other organized protest groups even coming in from the U.S. and out of the woodworks in Canada, and they are going to try to make this into a January 6th on steroids. Luckily, though, people that knew what happened during January 6th, and had luckily had like the networks, and we were just trying to get all hands on deck, and. Anyway, I know I talk about this a lot. I'm really sorry that I'm redundant. And so this guy is super interesting. He's a friggin' hero. And I just feel so bad for what he went through. I really wish that he had someone like me. I'm not saying that this sounds so cocky. I don't mean it to, because again, I'm not even close to perfect in anything. but just to say maybe this is not a good idea to even come. You know what I mean? Because it just doesn't feel right. Or I don't know.
Like, hey, we got a mistrial here. We're going to put the motion in tonight. This is definitely a mistrial. They've had an FBI informant in our defense camp.
You need to explain this, because it's so flabbergasting. This was a witness that you and your counsel were meeting with to prep for trial?
Yes.
I mean, this is even worse than what I thought I understood the last time, Enrique.
No, it's worse. It's worse than that. They were in like prayer groups within like my family's prayer groups.
So let me try to steelman this so that it's not Biden's Soviet United States of America. This was one of your witnesses. You guys are meeting, discussing strategy, discussing testimony. Here's what we're going to ask you.
No shame in prayer groups. No friggin' shame.
What we want to do. Was he relaying this information to the prosecution?
We couldn't find out because we couldn't ask her. We couldn't even ask.
It is truly beyond the pale unbelievable.
Yeah.
The night before, you're calling. He was like, "Oh my! How far into the trial are you now?"
The prosecutor, the government took about 3 months, actually like 4 months to present their trial. So it was at the very beginning of the defense's presentation.
Yeah, after the. I hope put it in the chat and let me know you appreciate how bad this is. They've been strategizing their defense in light of the prosecution evidence, prepping their own witnesses. Ballantyne tells your lawyers herself the night before they're scheduled to testify, "Oh yeah, they're agents or assets or CHSs, whatever." Informants, and we can't tell you and are not going to tell you whether or not they've been communicating the contents of their interactions with us or the FBI.
And you can't question her about it when she's on the stand.
What does the judge say to that? Like, first of all, if I'm the lawyer, and this is why I couldn't be able to do this, I wouldn't be able to sleep for the next week. I would be livid. I might, you might.
We were happy. We're like, oh my God, there's no way. The judge is like, oh yeah, there's no evidence that she disclosed any defense strategy or anything. And I was like, so who are we trusting? You're not even bringing her up to the stand to question that.
It's presumptive because there was concealment. It's presumptive that this person who infiltrated you did not disclose that so that you could at least govern yourselves accordingly. Do we trust this person not to relay? And so the judge says, oh, cool beans, good to go. Carry on.
Yep. Carry on. And we're like, wait, what? hold on. And so much crap has happened at this point in the trial. We're like 4 months in that we were like, that's it. Like you're numb to it. You're like, all right, well, whatever. Let's go to the next one. We'll fight the next battle.
There's no point having the trial at that point. Just say, that's it. Throw myself at the mercy of the court. Sentence me to whatever. At least we'll save some.
That's exactly how we felt, you know. And then let's go with the fourth.
But I should just before that, because I need to know the logistics. So they tell you this the night before. You still bring up that witness the next day.
No, we
what
don't.
does
We
okay,
don't.
so
Because you never put a witness on the stand that you don't know what they're going to say. We go up there and maybe she goes, yeah, for sure. They planned the whole thing.
I'm sorry. That is the obvious answer. Oh my goodness. Okay.
So, I held it under wraps for a little bit, but the government star witness in the case, his name's Jeremy Bertino. Jeremy Bertino was a close friend of mine. And when I got arrested on March 8th of 22, they went and raided his house. Jeremy Bertino is a former felon, and he had firearms in the house. So when they went to go arrest him, they told him, well, you're going to do a long time. You're a felon in possession of a firearm. Plus, we're going to get you with seditious conspiracy or whatever. You know, he had four. No, well, wait. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you this based on the knowledge I knew before, like 3 months ago, and then I'm going to say it now with the knowledge I have now. He met with the FBI 4 times. Jocelyn Valentine was there, I think, 3 of those 4 times. His first interview with the FBI was the most honest. No way. There's no way. These people didn't have any plans or whatever. The second one, he was like, oh, you know, these guys are aggressive, but, you know, they would never plan to do that. The third one.
Now that I think about it.
Now they're like, now that I think about it, you know, you guys are raising good points. Maybe these guys were hiding it before, you know, and I just didn't know. The fourth one, he's like, yeah, dude, they told me to do it. They told me to do it. And we have all the 302s, right? Or I think it's 302s or 402s. I think
well, if it's 302s, I thought was FBI, but well, that is the FBI. Okay, fine. Yeah, I understand that.
So you can read all these 302s. They're public knowledge. Every single one, he changes his story. Now I'm going to tell you from what I know now and how I know it. I reached out to Jeremy after I came out to see if he would change his tune, and he did. You guys can go check it out. I think it's pinned to the top of on Twitter at Warboy Studios. It's one of my latest. It's called I think it's called The Knife of Judah. I think is the episode name. And Jeremy Bertino admits to perjury, admits to being coached, and admits we only thought that he met with the FBI 4 times. He met with the FBI over 20 times. Yeah, that's Jeremy right there.
I'll give this link to everybody in the chat now.
Yeah. So he recants his whole testimony, and within him recanting his entire testimony, because we did it professionally first, right? We got him deposed multiple times. We had him sign an affidavit, which is now public knowledge, and then I decided to interview him because there's nobody that's better to ask him questions than me. You know, a private investigator wasn't going to do it properly. He wasn't going to do it properly himself, and I wanted him on camera. And he admitted to being coached, and the person who coached him was Jocelyn Valentine and Special Agent Nicole Miller. He admitted.
Is Nicole Miller still at the employ of the DOJ?
Nicole Miller is in the employ of the FBI, and yes, she is.
I just like if any clip and whatever. What the fuck is possibly going on, Enrique?
Well, there's another part of this case, the Cole case, and I'll say it now before I say the fifth thing. The lead FBI agent, I always mispronounce his name. I think it's Brennick, or whatever. He was the lead FBI agent in our case. And it's like they're getting the Proud Boy dream team, and they're putting them back together to prosecute this pipe bomber, which I have mixed feelings about. And again, I guess we'll talk about that later. But the head of the Capital Siege Division still works for the DOJ. Nicole Miller, Special Agent Nicole Miller, still works for the FBI. Special Agent Brennick, or whatever he is. I always screw up his name. I don't know why. I think it's just like such a weird name. Still works for the FBI. These Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino were put on this to give us like some semblance of faith in these institutions. And like when I see this, you don't know how livid I was when I found out that Jocelyn Valentine was a prosecutor in this case. I called everybody. I called Cara Castronova. I called Julie Kelly. I called everybody. And I'm like, can you fucking believe this? That this woman did this. And in February, I'm going to tell you another thing that happened in February. The guys had put a motion to dismiss. A little bit after me and you did our first interview. And she prohawks into the case the day before the deadline and completely says, during the Trump administration, signed off by Pam Bondi, says everything that happened in our case was done correctly, done properly, and nobody did anything wrong.
Then why did you need a pardon?
Not only that, a couple days before that, they had fired almost the entire prosecution team because of their actions towards the January 6 cases. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, we fired these people because their actions were despicable, which is a word that was used. Their actions were despicable, and then turn around in court and say, well, you know what? Everything they did is right. It's either you get sued by us, which is currently happening, or you get sued by those prosecutors for wrongful termination, right? Because you can't have it both ways. She completely says, she comes in, Jocelyn Ballantyne. And let me see if I put up on my Twitter, let me see if I put up that document. But that's not the most egregious thing that you've heard today. Before trial, they put me in a room, and we talked about this part. They put me in a room, they slid a piece of paper across the desk with a narrative on it. And they're like, if you sign this, you'll have a bail hearing next week, and we guarantee you won't do a single day in prison. I pulled the document in, I looked at it, and basically what the document said was that the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, through the means of a third party, told me to storm the Capitol of the United States to stop the certification of the election.
May I stop you just for 1 second? Who's sliding this paper and who's asking you to sign it?
Her name is Jocelyn Ballantyne, and she works for the Department of Justice. And she was the head of the Capitol Siege Division for the Department of Justice at the time. Sitting in the room, she's the one that offered it. I said no. And she told me to lie about the president in order to go home. And there is no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. Because at that time, Jack Smith hadn't been appointed yet. There's no doubt in my mind that one of the people that were working with Jack Smith.
I just got to pause it there. Again, because it's like, I want to talk throughout just because Viva Frigo, I did link the original video. He was offered to be out on bail within a week and not face any jail time. If he just said, yeah, Trump is the one that made me, riot or whatever. And again, it's absolutely disgusting. And this guy is a hero. Okay. And he helped a lot of people out. He helped a lot of people out by doing that. Okay. And he definitely fell on his friggin' sword. And it's just horrific that this actually happened. And the fact that, again, there's so much deep state involvement in covering this up and screwing these guys over even now. It's just like, it breaks my heart. Like, it just, oh my God, like even what Helen Gruce went through, Ottawa Police Services. And I had worked with her since 2016 on higher level contracts, and just a friggin' hero, just an incredible human being. And she's still in the courts, over $100,000 in debt. Why? Because she was giving medical, scientific, and government data regarding COVID to her chain of command, and rightfully so, and trying to properly investigate sudden infant deaths, children that were otherwise healthy that died under the age of 5, and just like at an accelerated rate, and then again just vilified, character assassinated, and again still in the courts years later. She was suspended and charged, by the way, that first weekend of the Freedom Convoy, and her phones were tapped even before that. And again, so like we were in the same network and stuff like that. Very small community within the Ottawa area of people that were actually speaking out on this stuff and whistleblowing, and people I can't even name, obviously, still. Just friggin' heroes, and just that their lives were fucked and still are fucked, and there's zero accountability. And then another friend of mine, over 20 years in the military, an army officer, and she was artillery at first, and then switched over. But because she was pregnant, she didn't want to get vaccinated because she was high risk, because she was almost 40 years old at the time, and she really wanted to have this baby. And she was, again, like hearing the same stuff as me, getting the same accurate information that's coming out now, that we were friggin' right. It's not that we were right. It's just that we had access to the appropriate information that was being buried and censored. So again, I don't blame people, but she was kicked. She was released, pressured by the military, pressured by her chain of command, pressured by her doctors, etc. And went through a divorce because her husband was also military and he was fully vaccinated and was pressuring her to as well. And she's like, I don't want to risk this baby. I won't, probably will never have another kid again. This is like my last kick at the cat. And then in the courts, and then again, like not properly represented because this was a mass tort. And again, this lawyer, and again, I think she was just in over her head, respectfully speaking. And just the way the court hearings went, from what I've been told from people that were part of it, was that it was not done well at all, and made us look, unfortunately, or them look rather like a conspiracy theorist, more like anything. I don't know why it was pursued the way it was, or presented rather. And then other court cases with other lawyers, et cetera, that were just dismissed without even being heard. And so really unfortunate. And we need to have really good lawyers in Ottawa that really step up and get this back on track. But a lot of people have been demoralized, unmotivated now. Again, they don't have the money for it anymore. They don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And again, even my friend that I'm talking about that I can't name, but she's still going through this. And I've asked her, like, if I could find a lawyer and get this together, would you want to be involved in it? And she's just like, she doesn't have the energy anymore. She's trying to focus on her baby, and who's still young, who's still a toddler. And again, like knowing people that have committed suicide during COVID and during these trials again, and injured, further injured, and not moral injuries, sorry, organizational betrayal injuries and stuff like that being exacerbated. And so it's just a lot, and again, a lot of money. I digress.
Prosecute the president because it was a January 6th
This
case.
guy's a hero.
She definitely worked with Jack Smith. There's no doubt in my mind that Jocelyn Ballantyne worked with Jack Smith to prosecute the president of the United States, right? Because there's no other person, right, that knows more about everything that happened at the Capitol than the head of the Capitol Siege Division at the DOJ.
But I presume, you'll correct me if my assumption is wrong, had you signed that, they would have used that, Ballantyne would have used that to prosecute Trump.
Well, she would have given it to Jack Smith at that point. Jack Smith, again, the timeline is that Jack Smith wasn't appointed until a couple months later. Actually, yeah, a couple months later. But I'm 100% sure she would have been the person working there with it. She was the one that gave the offer. So the person that was going to help Jack Smith put the president away, Jocelyn Ballantyne, still works for the DOJ. I don't know. I don't know what to think of this. So, like, putting all this together, taking my feelings out of it, because I have very, very strong feelings towards this person, to the point where I called my attorney yesterday. We're currently suing the United States government, including Special Agent Nicole Miller. We might add Jocelyn Ballantyne, amend our suit and add Jocelyn Ballantyne in there, because this is getting out of hand now. Maybe that's what'll cause her to lose her fucking job. But I want to take. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'll ask the question now. Maybe we would have gotten to it later. Anyhow, it's people in the chat cannot believe it. It's shocking. It's flabbergasting. Someone might say, look, the American government is a big institution. Trump can't be expected to know everybody. Pam Bondi can't be expected to know everybody. They don't know of this woman's involvement in January 6th, the extent of it, the scope of the unlawful actions that she carried out as puppet master prosecutor. Do you have knowledge that the administration or key players of this administration now currently know who she is, know what she did, and are not doing a damn thing about it?
I could confirm as of yesterday, there is a high-ranking government official that knows exactly who Jocelyn Ballantyne is. I won't tell you what was said, but I could guarantee you that person knows exactly who she is. Can that person do something? I don't know. Possibly.
Yeah, but
yes. The answer is actually yes. Yes.
My big mistake is I put out a tweet and tag Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, FBI rapper. Response is like, why is this woman working here? And then they say, well, the response might be, they have no say in it. They don't pick the prosecutor. It's like, you're right. I absolutely should have included AG Pam Bondi. What the hell is going on?
Well, wait a second. You didn't. I mean, maybe the premise of it was a little off. But if you're talking about the special agents in charge, the agents, remember that they just said that he was cooperating with the FBI and they got him in the interrogation room and he said all these things. The FBI agent that was in the room is the FBI agent, the lead FBI agent in our case. So there is somebody that knows. Dan Bongino and Kash Patel know who this guy is, right? Because they're not going to be like, oh, let's just roll the dice and hope that let's just pick. They throw a paper airplane in the FBI office and whoever catches it is the FBI agent that leads the case. No, you go through the file, right? And you're like, okay, not this one, not this one. Oh, okay, this one did. I mean, this is probably, if it's the biggest case in United States history, then at the top of his file is the Proud Boy case, right? They're like, oh, this is the guy who prosecuted the Proud Boys. Put him on the pipe bomber case. And one could be like, oh, well, you know what? I saw somebody comment this earlier on your post, and they're like, well, look how successful they were prosecuting the Proud Boy case, right? And you know what? Fair argument. But let's go through this list, because the reason why I did this list is because it's a list of their follies, right? Everything here points in the direction of either throwing out the charges or a mistrial. You get the biggest case. From January 6th, which was this pipe bomber. And you put these follies in. And yeah, in our case, they had this corrupt judge, Timothy Kelly, right, that hated the president, showed his animus for the president on the while he was on the podium. You know, you get one of these judges that is sympathetic to somebody bombing the RNC, and one of these things happened, and the case is thrown out. You know, do I sound crazy? Well, where's Comey and Letitia James now? Do I sound crazy? Because people were telling me, hey, you're crazy. No way. These guys are going, Letitia James is going away for life now. And so, where are they at? Please tell me. Are they sitting in a jail cell, or are they having fucking mimosas, right? Down in Florida, probably by you, right now on vacation. They're probably hanging out with that prosecutor from Atlanta. What's her name? Fannie Willis?
The question that I was just about to ask, however, was, okay, so who the FBI picks to be the special agent on it. You know, when I asked the question, if the answer is from Patel, FBI, Bongino, we don't pick the prosecutor. Okay, that's an answer which is a sort of a double-edged sword. All right, well, now that you know who is involved there, do you just go along with this prosecution, or do you voice some discontent to Pam Bondi? Or do you say, this is dysfunctional, I'm out of here, find someone else who wants to be part of this charade, because I came here for justice for the Jan 6ers, not to allow the perpetrators of that injustice to be lead prosecutors on another case with all the stains that that's going to bring to it.
What's the over-under that this Nicole Miller agent, the one with the messages, what are the chances? I mean, I'd bet this on Polymarket right now that she's part of this case too.
I'm going to see if I can find that out.
Maybe we could ask the FBI's press office and see if Special Agent Nicole Miller is on this case. Well, I'm currently suing her, so we're actually looking to subpoena her anyways. I mean, actually, I'm sorry. No, we subpoenaed her a couple weeks ago. We don't need her.
We got a lot of people watching. If that information is out there, I'm sure one of the however many people watching now are going to get it. But to that comment that says, "Oh yeah, well they want a good prosecutor," it was this person. The prosecutor is good at prosecuting criminals, like the bomber and your guest. To me, to which I say, base takes my ass. Yeah, it's like nothing better than having crooked prosecutors hide exculpatory evidence to secure unlawful, unconstitutional convictions. We're not living in fucking Russia, and nobody wants that type of justice and success from criminal prosecutors.
The number one goal for Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, above everything, right, is to instill confidence in the institution that is the FBI, right? Because if you do the math, obviously conservatives weren't big fans of the FBI during the Biden administration for what they did, right? So you got a little bit over half of the population in the United States completely distrusts the FBI. Then you move in, and the Trump administration takes over, and Kash Patel takes over, and all the liberals are like, "Oh no, we don't trust the FBI." So then the other half of the country, now the other half of the country doesn't trust them. But then you have a big swath of the conservative movement that is very distrustful because we don't see results. We don't see results. We saw what happened to Comey. We saw what happened with Letitia James. We haven't seen actually the deep state arrest count, the 0 that our friend Brianna puts up every once in a while. And I always correct her. I go, it's not 0, it's -2, right? Because we're -2. We lost 2. So now we got to gain another 2 in order to get back to 0. They're not going to be able to. I think I told you this to you when we were talking last night, or Julie. Do you think Dan Bongino is going to be able to go back to podcasting successfully after 4 years? I don't think so. You know, unless we start seeing something. I want them to win. I want to have what's that shirt? The Cash App or whatever shirt. I want to have the Bongino Army shirt. I want to rock those things because I want them to be successful. Because if they're successful, my enemies are in prison. The people that destroyed my life and destroyed the life of my family and my mother, made that woman cry every night, those people have to pay. And the only people that are able to get justice through retribution, through justice, is Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. There's nobody in the United States right now that is rooting for them more than I am. But that means I have to be critical every time they do something wrong. This guy, if he goes to trial, will walk away scot-free. Because these blunders by the FBI and the DOJ, they're going to throw this case out. And again, I don't know the dynamics of the case. I don't know if this is the guy. I don't know if that other woman's the woman. I don't know if the other woman is the woman. You know, there's a whole bunch of people that say it's this person, that person. But what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Like, it's the new FBI. That's the old FBI, but with a new name.
Well,
now we have.
Not just that, like, you say, it is. I never had more confidence in any two people than Bongino and Patel. More in Bongino because I know him personally. Patel I never met. And the first question and the biggest question I always had is, okay, you've got two new directors of the FBI. Some of the criticism is that they didn't have FBI experience, so they didn't know the inner workings, they didn't know the players, and they would be easy.
That's fair.
They would be easy to have the wool pulled over their eyes, and they don't know who to watch out for.
That's fair. I didn't expect them to like just come in there and like with a sledgehammer.
Well, no, but then I said my question is, for people who've been saying the FBI is potentially irremediably corrupt, and this is Bongino, you need to clean the house, not come in and all of the players who were involved in these Jan 6 persecutions, the investigations, the FBI abuse, they're all still there, and some of them are getting promotions. Others of them are now prosecuting cases, and I want Bongino to succeed. And whether or not, people say he'll never be able to go back to podcasting, it depends on how he leaves or what he gets done within. When the rumors were that he was going to leave because of Bondi's fucking up of the Epstein disclosures, I'm like, yes, that's how you preserve your own dignity. You don't have to throw the administration under the bus because you want it to succeed. But if things are going in a way that handcuffs you and makes you not just gagged and unable to act, but also makes you complicit in this nonsense, you get out in the most discreet manner possible and you go back. And then you wait until enough time has elapsed and you can reveal those secrets without risking taking down this administration that needs to succeed.
Yeah.
And now we're later on now where I'm skeptical of this story. I don't know if I believe it's the guy. It sounds supremely fishy. When they were, when you remember that Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were joking about their insurance policy against Trump, the idea that anyone thinks that for the last 4 years, all the FBI under Biden was doing was nothing in this case, like just neglecting it, versus actively planning for the day that they might find the people who did this and not planning something of an insurance policy against that. And now you put two new people on the case under Patel and Bongino, and they magically discover this that's been hiding in plain sight. I don't believe that this, the prior FBI was strictly incompetent. I believe they were malicious, and in which case I believe they're planning for the day that people actually find out who the pipe bomber was. And this might be plan B, the insurance policy. But how do they rationalize and justify working with the very same rank and file at an FBI that railroaded Jan 6ers and MAGA, and that is probably sandbagging and what's the other word I'm looking for? Sabotaging their leadership.
Yeah. And then you put them on like the biggest case. Like if you don't count, I keep having to shit on the Comey and the Letitia James, right? So this is the biggest case that they've had so far, the most publicly talked about case, and they knew that this was going to be one of the biggest cases that they talked about. Why would you put these people on there? Why don't you, if you want to keep them, whatever, and you say, well, they're good at paperwork or whatever, well, just put them in a back office somewhere. No, let's put them to lead the most, the biggest case that we've had all year. Let's put them to lead this case and think it's a good idea. I go back, look, I agree with you. I want to wear those shirts, bro. They're cool shirts. The Bongino Army shirt and the cash with the cash sign. Like, I want to do that. But I can't right now. Because I'm livid. I'm pissed. I've been pissed for fucking 2 days. Like, these people are still walking around. The least that they could do is fire them. I want them in prison, but let's start somewhere. When Kash Patel came in and he's like, I'm going to turn the DC office into a museum. Look, I understand the political rhetoric. You're not really going to turn it into a museum, although it would be nice. What you're saying is the symbolism. I'm going to clean house.
Mm-hmm.
And that cleaning house is how, like, people feel comfortable with the FBI anymore. You want an FBI you believe in? There should be less FBI memes, right? People should have trust in it, where no more FBI or ATF memes happen. But
no, but Enrique, when they come out with a story a month, the breaking arrest a month after Steve Baker's expose, with a story that many people just simply don't believe on its face. This guy managed to evade the FBI for 5 years, and he's a 30-year-old, apparently basically nonverbal or borderline nonverbal autist who managed to buy this stuff over the course of a year and a half before the election, build it, and then get away with it. And then, while they expect people to swallow that, they then pick as a prosecutor the prosecutor that was involved in the most egregious constitutional violations of Jan 6ers and Trump supporters and Trump himself, so much so that they needed a pardon from Trump. I mean, some people feel that this is almost the insult to the injury. And if Bongino and Patel have no choice in it, and it's Bondi who's doing this, and they're the ones, basically holding the bag, then you get out, and you get out politely, and or you get out and you try to take out the people who are responsible for this if it's not them.
Yeah, and
That was
I want to make 2 points here too. We already saw what bad prosecutors do. We saw Comey's daughter in multiple cases, including the Diddy case, and just flop that case out together. Although there was some strange things in that case, whatever. But you put Comey's daughter in, she screws over a couple cases. And here's another thing. I'm pretty sure, I haven't really dug in too deep into this. I saw Judge, I can't call her Judge Jeanine Pirro, Attorney Jeanine Pirro, at the press briefing, which leads me to believe that it's a DC case, right? I don't know what this guy's political lean is. It's too early for me to tell. There's too much misinformation out there. So let's say this guy is a radical leftist, right? Do you really think that a DC jury is going to convict this man of these charges? And the answer is no, they're not. But in both cases, and here's me talking about my personal feelings here. Let's say they're successful in prosecuting this man, and let's say it was just. Let's say it was a just prosecution. Jocelyn Ballantyne and this special agent, they get whitewashed. They become heroes in history. Nobody will remember them for the Proud Boy case. They'll remember them for the pipe bomber case, and they get to parade down and the trail of misery that they're responsible for. Just doesn't cut it, man.
People are going to remember them for the Proud Boys case, because I don't think many people watching before today knew that Ballantyne was involved or the puppet master in that case. I think people are going to know now, and I'll predict it. I think there will be judicial consequences. They're going to be lifted from the case. I think if not fired outright. I don't think enough people knew this, and I don't think it's been put on blast enough to bring to the administration, so they could at least give the impression of change and not the impression of keeping on higher and promoting the people who perpetrated the events, the injustice over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Something. Yeah, someone also corrected me and said, "Yeah, Viva, you don't tag it Pam Bondi, tag Jeanine Pirro." The bottom line is, it's an obvious question. Someone's got to answer it. How the hell did this happen?
I agree. Look, and I think Jeanine Pirro is doing the best to her ability. Right? She's in a very, very bad district. Right, to bring up prosecutions, especially political prosecutions. And look, here, the DOJ should know this. If the pipe bombs were built in Virginia, in Northern Virginia, right, and I haven't seen the political demographics of that area, Woodridge, I think it's called.
I'm not sure what judicial district is part of.
I believe it should be the Northern District of Virginia. But if he built the bombs there, put the case out of there. Take the case out of DC. We've seen them fail back to back. What was that case with the Subway sandwich?
The Subway sandwich guy. He walked.
He's on video throwing the fucking sandwich. And
Michael Sussman was on paper billing the Clinton campaign for his meeting with the FBI, where he gave him the Steele dossier, and they still, he walked. Jury nullification.
Yes.
Oh, I want to make one prediction right now, just because I think what most likely is going to happen. Remember in Michael Flynn's case, when he pleaded, and then they refused to let him withdraw his plea because of ineffective counsel and some chicanery. What's going to happen in this case, if it proceeds, is this kid, this guy.
Okay, on video. I just want to bring up a few points where, based on being provided with new information, I, come to different conclusions, but with still questions. So there's still questions that have not been answered. And so I have said before, because of Blaze TV, because of the gate analysis, which, by the way, organizations do use because it can be accurate, including giving authorization for drone strikes based on gate analysis alone. it can be accurate. It's not 100%. And so there's that. And that was the only thing essentially that was like a tying or connecting. Well, that's what they're alleging. But there were government reports and reports that like offices had her listed as a possible suspect or something along those lines. But like again, she was listed in documents, etc., which is why people said her name. And so by doing that, by the way, did pressure people to focus on finding out who the actual pipe bomber was, because I do believe that this is something that the Democrats under Biden sat on, and I still believe that they were sitting on it even now, because I do believe that there's still people from within the highest levels of the government or working with them from within these agencies that are dismantling it from within. They are burying evidence. Again, this is proven. Like this is even Elon Musk, part of Doge. Like people are saying this, even part of his team. Like so many people are. There's just too much proof. Burying evidence, withholding evidence, destroying it, et cetera, and so it's impossible, right? Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, like they can only go off of what they're being provided, and so which is unfortunate, right? Because you have people like Tucker Carlson, who's provided information even on Thomas Matthew Crooks and his social media presence that people from within the FBI allege they did not have. So again, is this something that they just don't care? They don't want people to get caught? Were they involved in him being the fall guy? Somehow, the deep state I'm talking about, because again, how that assassination attempt that happened on the 13th of July of 2024, there were just so many things that happened that were just so there was so much incompetence at the top, right? And so like, how could this not be some kind of I don't know. And so I'm questioning more and more, like they clearly did hate him. And now I'm hearing from this guy that he was offered essentially like a plea deal. Yeah, you'll get bail and you won't see jail if you basically say that Trump is a traitor to the country. And then again, by doing that, the other people that were witch hunted, peaceful people, innocent people that were not even there January 6th at the Capitol, they were in jail, right? So that would have they would have been part of or complicit in a friggin' Capitol riot or insurrection. Like again, leftist radicals are trying to paint with the media, which is absolutely, it's just disgusting to me. And so they have gone to great lengths, and it's just absolutely abhorrent. So I had thought at some point last year when I was assessing it from early on that he may have had again some knowledge, because I'm like, how the fuck do you survive that? Like it was just like a comedy of errors, not a comedy, because again, this was not funny, and it was absolutely horrific, obviously, and again, they need to stop withholding so much information. So there's only so much Kash Patel and Dan Bongino can do, and because I think from within they're getting sabotaged. I wanted to say another thing as well, and so even with Kirchhoff, because right now they're saying it's a guy named Brian Cole. And possibly with some kind of a disability, which is unfortunate if he's being again a fall guy. But again, they did say that they have some kind of gait analysis for him as well, and with purchases that he made. But again, even those is very questionable. These are purchases even from 2019, like sporadically. This was during COVID, and during times where people were doing repairs and having projects and hobbies, and so. And even with like the timing machines, like these kitchen timers, there was no secondary means of starting them or having it where where they start, and this was corroborated and confirmed. So like again, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been like a day or two since I've looked at that. But there was no way other than like just setting it yourself, the time these timers, where it would be able to be initiated, and then a 60-minute window before it detonated. And so they alleged that there was 20 minutes left when they did a search of the area with the dog teams. And again, we have not seen any surveillance thus far or any footage of that happening. The search is happening. They alleged there was 20 minutes left. So someone would have had to have started the countdown 40 minutes prior to at the within that time frame or after that within that time frame, and then didn't fully set it. And so people are alleging that this was planted the night before. And what I'm saying is that's impossible based on the information that we have so far, because they're saying that the timers on the devices themselves would not have been able to be initiated by any secondary means at all. I know I'm being redundant. I'm sorry for that. I need more coffee, clearly. And then the explosives components as well. Like there's no proof so far of like of certain ingredients that would be required for this to be considered a pipe bomb, like a bomb itself. And so you've got the pipe, you've got other elements of it, but you don't have, at least, again, correct me if I'm wrong, like the black explosive powder, the ability, like the ingredients to make it, and some other ingredients that were needed. Again, I don't know how to make these things. I don't want to do a search for it either, especially now, because like I'm probably already on a friggin' list. And I condemn this, by the way. But again, if this is a fall guy and someone working with the government, because whoever this person was, even the night before, and again, if this was like, he still had 20 minutes left, it would have had to have been initiated again within a 40-minute window of that, not the night before. So even though that person waved at a law enforcement agent within a vehicle, you know, that could have been a nothing burger. And so where's the footage from that timeline? Again, I'm being redundant, but there's still questions. Her alibi was that she was playing with her puppies during the night prior. And apparently she had an older dog at the time, and not puppies, and not more than one dog, right? So singular, not plural. And so there's more than that, but I'll just leave it at that because I want him to carry on with this. But again, like this guy, like from the start, he was like set up, and they all were, and it's so disgusting. And people from within wanted this to be worse than it was. And there are even Capitol Police and so many others that were literally, and I even shared videos of them even saying this, like they were literally set out to dry. They were hung out basically on their own, and absolutely disgusting. Yeah.
Guy, 30-year-old guy, he's going to plead. They're going to take the victory lap on his plea, and his plea is going to get thrown out afterwards because they examined this guy for 4 hours without counsel before his first hearing, which doesn't make any sense to me if the details are right. And I think what's going to happen, it's going to be Michael Flynn in reverse, because the left always accuses you of what they're doing. He's going to plead, and they're going to get that plea tossed out later down the line, and he's going to walk. And I don't even think as far as I understand right now, I don't believe he's the guy that did it, but
we don't have, correct me if we don't have the indictment yet, do we?
No, the last
thing,
thing,
the criminal complaint. That's it.
The affidavit in support of the arrest.
Yeah. So I mean, and we'll see what the indictment comes in on. But I agree with you. I think that this case is very likely to run. You know how easy it is to indict somebody and like prosecute them. It's very easy.
You can indict a ham sandwich. It's the old expression, and it's true for a reason.
I know it more than a lot of people. And this one's dangerous. This is treading dangerous ground. You need to put a new prosecuting team, and even if you do it, like nobody's going to believe it, right? Because look at the prosecutor you put up. So
here, let me just bring the chat, a couple of chats up here. It seems like they're using a mentally challenged person as a patsy. They're evil. Look, patsy has two different words, much like false flag does. He might be the one that was manipulated and coaxed by agents in the same way the dudes in the basement for the Gretchen Whitmer plot were mentally vulnerable individuals who were exploited, financed, and trained by more CHSs and FBI agents than actual participants in the crimes, as a result of which some of them got off for entrapment. So he could be very well have been used. He could be a totally, unrelated. We're going to see if he's got an alibi, or he could be someone that was groomed over the course of years and they actually used for that purpose. We got thank you from overtly overstocked Oscars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, geez. I mean, okay. What have I forgotten to ask you, Enrique? Because this is sufficiently mind blowing to me, and I hope it's equally outrageous to everybody watching. But is there anything?
I think so, and I think it's important, and I'm glad you brought me up, because I think it's important for people to like put the pieces together, right? Because if you just see, Jocelyn Ballantyne from the Proud Boys case, you might care. But like, let me remind you guys who this person is. This woman fumbled nonstop. And I'm just, I made a short list here. This woman fumbled our entire trial. In any other district, we would have been exonerated in its entirety. And we sit here and we voted for something, and I believe that the president knew what was going on. A lot of people don't understand this, right? Like, they're like, oh, Trump's got to know what's going on. Listen, this dude wakes up at 4:00 in the morning and is in like the Situation Room all day. Okay, there is a million things going on with the world. It's impossible for him to know everything. That's why like podcasts like yours are important, because you get people to start talking about it, and maybe we get it in front, because I'm pretty sure He's not okay with Jocelyn Valentine. That was, and I'm saying this, possibly working with Jack Smith. I'm almost 100% sure of that because there's nobody else, right? When we're talking about January 6 cases, there's nobody else. I want to remind people something because the DC case, you remember when they indicted him for the DC case and they called it the January 6 case? You know which case I'm talking about with Chutkin? Chutkin as the judge?
Yeah, hold on a second. Oh, and, yeah, that was the I want to say the documents case. So that was the
No, the documents case is in Florida.
Florida. Because hold on, so what was it? It was not classified material.
So
So I remember Chutkin. Chutkin was the commie on the bench, literally.
Yeah, so they called it the January 6 case, which was an inaccurate description of the case. Because if you read the indictment, he wasn't charged with anything that happened at the Capitol, right? He was charged with everything like, oh, he called the Georgia Secretary of State. He was manipulating people into changing the results of the election, a bunch of bullshit. But it wasn't a January 6 case. If people like me would have turned, it could have turned into a January 6 case. They wanted to pin him for seditious conspiracy. Why did they want to pin him for seditious conspiracy? Let's go back to Colorado when they knocked him off the ballot, right? The reason why it didn't stand was because it wasn't in the family of insurrection, right? If he would have been charged with seditious conspiracy, I'm not saying that it would have knocked him off the ballot, but there would have been more argument if he would have been charged with seditious conspiracy to interpret, I think it was the 12th Amendment.
Don't ask me. I
don't remember. I think it's the 12th Amendment. I might be wrong. You know what? Let me not say which amendment it is. Where you can't run for office if you were charged with insurrection or got convicted of insurrection. I'm not saying it would have knocked him off the ballot, but that's the goal, right? Because they're playing a chessboard, right? The name of the game is to knock your opponent's pieces off the table of play. And in politics, the king piece is the president. They were knocking off pawns nonstop throughout the Biden's 4 years because they didn't want him to run again. Then they went for the rooks. They went for the bishops. They went for the knights, which that's the Proud Boys. And then they wanted to knock the president of the United States off because he was the ultimate goal. All these prosecutions had the ultimate goal of one thing and one thing alone. Somebody said 14th Amendment. It was power. If you knock that king piece off for the Republican Party, you win. You win the board.
Well, this was exactly what Mike Benz was talking about in respect of the election integrity partnerships, the 2020 fortification, which was, do everything you can, legal and illegal, to cause Trump to lose. But even if he loses, you've got to take his voice away because he can still be politically useful with his 100 million followers on Twitter. So get him off Twitter, get him off Facebook, get him off social media, so that after you remove him, you prevent him from even being able to remobilize and reset the board. And that's exactly what they did. They just failed. And yet the very same people who did that and failed are part of the current FBI, the current DOJ, and other positions of power within the current administration.
Yeah. And, people like to deify the president. I hate when they do that. They're like, oh, he's like some type of like Superman, out of this world God or whatever. No, the reason why he's so amazing is that this regular dude, right? And you can be like, oh, well, he's a billionaire. He's a regular dude. He talks like a plumber, dude. He was able to knock off 2 impeachments, 4 indictments. All the weaponization that happened against him, whether it's like social media deplatforming, financial deplatforming, 2 assassination attempts.
At least.
At least. And he ends up the greatest comeback in recent American history. It's Donald Trump. And I know like a lot of people want to trash him for certain things, for certain stances on policies. I'm not that person. I consider loyalty to be of the utmost, like the highest standard that I have. And what the president did for me on that day, because a lot of people don't know this either, his first act as the president of the United States, his very first act, the first time he grabbed the pen as the 47th president of the United States was to sign those pardons and bring me home. There's nothing that my loyalty to the president is based on something. It's not like, oh, I'm not putting this guy on a pedestal. He gave me my life back. So I'm not turning on him, and I'm never turning on him. But that doesn't extend to his appointees. Okay? And if Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi was in front of me, is like, you have the biggest opportunity to make radical change and make the American people believe in these institutions. I don't want to hate the FBI. I don't want to hate the DOJ. I don't want kids to hate the FBI or the DOJ. You got a boss that will back you no matter what you do. Okay? Even when you do wrong, the president is so loyal that he's like, Kash Patel is doing a great job. Dan Bongino is doing a great job. Pam Bondi is doing a great job. You have that loyalty from the president. Nobody can touch you right now. Do the right thing. Because in 2028, me and you might be cellmates. The people watching this, right? I don't know how many viewers there are up here. You're next. If we don't put these people in prison and seek justice, it's going to happen again.
Let me do one thing here. Let me bring this up. Joe Mascu over in Rumble says, the craziest part of this is that Kash and Dan both named people they believe committed federal crimes, and now that Kash and Dan are in power, those people are untouchable. Capo Sooth says, we're supposed to believe that a black man waved at police. I don't necessarily believe that the person in the video waved at the police. They might have just been stretching their arm and it happened at that very same time, but it does look like the police car.
It does look like it, though. I will say that it does look like it. I've shared the video before. I've seen it multiple times. But just like with what happened on the 10th of September of this year, unfortunately, with the friggin' murder of Charlie Kirk, people were alleging that the security details were doing hand signals. I don't think they were in order to signal the alleged shooter, that people believe that it wasn't Tyler Robinson. Anyways, more information on that. I've done so many videos on that. I don't want to get too distracted. But and so sometimes it just looks like it, but it's not.
Break immediately after the person did it. Take that for what it's worth. King of Biltong says, craving some healthy, high-protein snacks. Biltong is packed with B vitamins, creatine, iron, zinc, and more. The perfect high-protein snack. BiltongUSA.com. Code VIVA for 10% off. And hold on, Enrique, I'm going to see what we got over on VivaBarnesLaw.locals.com. We got Viva and Noble. This is not new and does not make your case in all of the Jan 6 less significant. I appreciate what Atrophy Cat is going to say right now. The government does this on all levels, state and federal, misdemeanor and felony prosecutions. It's now in the limelight. When they do this in the light, imagine what they do in the dark. Absolutely. That's what Barnes.
I agree.
Yeah, Barnes and I, we were talking about this. They've been doing this at all levels forever. And the people just didn't have the bullhorn that Trump had to put it on blast. And Jan 6ers. Schnookum says they'll convict the guy and use that to justify not going after Metro officer, even if his conviction is overturned. We'll see about that in a second. And Enrique, two things. First of all, did you mention the thing that you didn't yet mention?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did. That was number 5. When it was Jocelyn Ballantyne. I hadn't said that before. Even last time we talked, I had said, it was the prosecutors. I was treading kind of carefully because we were getting ready to sue at that point. But we will be adding, I believe that we will be adding Jocelyn Ballantyne to our lawsuit, so she can prepare to get served.
Let me see if I get some questions in over in locals. And the other thing that I was going to do was this, which was bring this one up. No, the eye condition. I wanted to ask you about that. Sorry. It says Enrique actually has an eye condition. Maybe Viva can ask him about it. He mentioned it on Tim's show a few years back. I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's why.
So people are always like, oh, he's always wearing sunglasses. I am photophobic. I was born very light sensitive. It's unnatural lights. It's like light bulbs. Usually blue light fucks me up. But then it wasn't that bad. I went and I got LASIK, and it made it like fucking 15 times worse, dude. It was so bad.
That's why the touching eyeballs is like there's only one thing. Touching balls and eyeballs, you're touching the most sensitive things on your body. People's like, Viva, go get the eye corrective surgery. It's like, I don't care if it's 1 in a million.
If you're not light sensitive, right?
And what happens?
It's
Like,
completely safe.
your
I
eye
get,
is
I
clear
get
up?
massive migraines.
Mhm.
Right? I take them off every once in a while because it's kind of just like it's unbearable sometimes. But I can't drive at night without like a pair of shades on. I can't be in my hotel room because it's not natural light. If you've been in my studio, you've seen how dark it is. You know, I like the bright studio. I like what you have behind you. I wish I could have that, but it would render my pod completely useless because I turn into a bumbling idiot. It's like a quarter way down.
I had no idea. Okay, we got. Hey, Viva, look up the picture of the Obama clock kid. Deja vu. Yeah, cool clock, Mohammed. I do appreciate that. That kid did. I mean, they look somewhat similar. I can appreciate that. In our locals community, Enrique, some questions are broad plans for the future. I mean, if you add someone to the lawsuit, however, that's going to start the entire process from scratch because you add a new defendant. They're going to come in and avail themselves of all of their rights that they would have had they been initially named. So that slows things down.
That's one of the things that we're going to talk about on Monday. Just judging by right now, we're actually just waiting to see if the judge will give us. Well, I'm pretty sure she will
give permission to add.
No, a hearing on because the government, Pam Bondi, put a motion to dismiss our lawsuit against the United States government. We filed our opposition, and now we might have a hearing here soon or a ruling. You know, so maybe if that we'll strategically we'll make a decision on it.
Okay. And I was just told over in locals that another rant came in, so I'm going to share this up here. Hold up 1 second. It was an orange thing. Okay, we got Low Light Recovery says, Noble One, want to pick your about JLVD? Want to pick your brain about JLVD?
James, our ex-attorney for the
okay, and Esquire and related acquaintances. I'm Noble _lie_ I'll screen grab this and you can decide what to do with it
send
afterwards.
it over to me. Send me a to that person. Just send me a DM. I'll check the message request if it's Noble.
Noble lie __.
Okay.
Remove this. Bring this up. I think it's mind blowing. Viva only needs to change his granny style glasses to a little more stylish pair. That's from Roostang.
I will agree with that person.
Oh, look, and it's not because I'm cheap and I'm not trying to perpetuate stereotypes. I just don't want to waste things. The frames kept breaking, and the store only had this particular color that fit the lenses, and I'm not wasting good lenses.
Okay.
So they keep replacing them every year. This is, I think, one of the first pairs I got in Florida. The frame breaks, stands in optical, replaces them. It's a great deal. Okay, Enrique. First of all, thank you immensely for doing this. It's
no problem. Anytime you need somebody to fill, I'm in. Then.
Well, I would have loved to have done it in person. We meet up in Miami, but we'll do it again.
Last time.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, we had the technical issues getting it started. I remember. I forgot about that until I rewatched. But no, we'll do this again. We're gonna. Oh, here, hold on 1 second. If the guy is truly autistic, not using the term as a fashionable term, arresting and prosecuting falsely is very, very cruel. Well,
I think so too. Like there's a part of me, there's the humanity, the little humanity I have left in me that's not this raging ball of anger towards the DOJ. Might feel bad for this guy because I did read a little bit. Like the guy had like a speech impediment. He doesn't walk.
Well, he doesn't walk correctly, which is why they're going to have some problems reconcile. They're going to get some ring camera of him walking his Chihuahua and see if it looks anything like the hoodie person.
Yeah.
The grandmother said he's autistic, borderline nonverbal. You assume that family is going to protect family, and they might be using the term loosely. Sorry, I actually almost missed this one. Maybe a bit random. Mentally challenged person who happened to fit the bill, almost because some key person likely knew his semi-well-known parents. Do they know of him? We're getting some insights about the parents. You know, they had a lawsuit against the Trump's DOJ for various administrative fights regarding their bail bond company. The father, not the son, appeared at a press conference after the election with Crump, talking about.
I saw that too.
Yeah, it was something. It was something indicating he was pro Biden. So we're getting some indications, but we will wait for information. But
well, two things there. If we do get that video, those Ring doorbells, I suggest we send it to one of the best forensics experts that outside of the FBI. We should send it to Steve Baker and see if the gate analysis does good. I love Steve, man. I think he did an excellent job. I think if anything, look, nothing is for certain. I think if anything, he pushed this to come about, which actually might be a bad thing for this guy if he proves not to be the guy. But another thing, a lot of people don't know a lot about what happened on January 6th. So I'm hoping that I blew some of you guys that are watching. I'm hoping I blew some of your minds with some of the knowledge.
You blew this. I can guarantee it. You blew my mind, and I think I don't know everything. I know more than the average person about this.
You guys want to get like some real insight on like what happened on January 6th. My buddy Help Stop Hate. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
I think it sounds oddly familiar.
Yeah, Help Stop Hate. I'm gonna boost him on my Twitter. He has like a whole collection of just videos and breakdowns of things that you thought you knew on January 6th. And just look at the videos, and it's going to change.
I did see, because he was commenting on somebody. He was just commenting on the most.
It's his name.
It's a red stop sign that says okay. So it's this. We're gonna promote it right now. Yeah, because I noticed he was I noticed a replies coming from that avatar. So let me share this link with everybody here.
Yeah, he is great. And he breaks down everything. He has some great documentaries that break everything down. So suggestively, if you like what I said right now, I'm peanuts compared to Dave over there, which I've interviewed for my podcast before.
Well, let me go follow back right now. I get he must have done a follow for follower at some point, because they're like 14,000 following, and I think Twitter doesn't like that, and so doesn't algorithmically promote those accounts that are following almost as many people as have followers.
Oh yeah.
Well, one last thing, actually, just before we go, there was one more chat. I won't show it. I'll just bring it up. It says, were the Jan 6 lawyers good enough? I think my understanding is they were very good.
The defense lawyers?
Yeah.
I'd say they were. They all had their different strengths. And I know maybe some of my I'm so used to calling them co-defendants, I'm so like programmed. My brothers, some of the lawyers for my brothers, some of them aren't very happy with them, but I think we had a really good array. I had a very, very good team. I can't complain about my team. Naib Hassan, Sabino Jareggi. They were amazing attorneys, big shot attorneys here in Miami. Highly recommend if you get into a criminal case. If you're in DC and it's a political case, there's nobody. You could literally get Johnny Cochran, dig him out of the grave, put him in a cloning machine, clone him in all different colors. Make a Asian Johnny Cochran, a Jewish Johnny Cochran, a white Johnny Cochran, black Johnny Cochran, put him in your team. You're going to lose the case anyways.
Yeah. So we're gonna raid. Just so everybody knows, we're gonna raid. What did neurodivergent say? We're gonna raid. We're gonna raid somebody. Everybody. Dan's Dear Sarge. So we're gonna raid Dear Sarge. I don't know who he is, but I trust neurodivergent. The last question that I was gonna ask before we end this, and we're gonna say our proper goodbyes off air. You put out a tweet. I'm not mentioning her name, and it's not out of fear of getting sued. It's like there's no need. I can't remember her name, and I don't know that I've ever even used
hard
it.
Name to remember.
Yeah, it's like once. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But I just remember what she did, and I know what she did because I just couldn't believe that whether or not she was the properly identified person in the Blaze article, everyone acknowledges that she was the one sitting there firing rubber bullets and pepper balls at the crowd in a manner that was deemed to be either reckless or not less than lethal. You had some choice words, and I won't share the tweet, but basically it's like F this B. For what she did, she deserves to be in jail, and no sympathy, no remorse.
It's true. I believe so as well. She should be in jail.
Let evil take root. And a lot of people have. And the reason why I typed it is I saw a lot of people on our side of the aisle champion, be like, oh, I hope she sues everybody into oblivion. I hope she sues the Blaze or Steve into oblivion.
No, jail.
I don't want to give any people like this like I don't want to give them
Or
any
do it in jail.
root.
Sue from jail.
Okay, because even if she didn't do that, the things
Due
that
process.
the crimes that she committed on January 6th
Yeah.
do not allow me to side with her over it. I've picked my side a long time ago. I don't pretend that I don't have a bias. There's many people. This is a battlefield, and we use different tools. We use tanks. We use jets. We use personnel. I am a tool in there, and there's people that their whole goal is conversions. Bring people into the movement from the other side. That's not my thing. Okay, I will never give my enemy an ounce. I won't give them an inch. I won't be like, oh, okay, well, you know what? Steve Baker's a great dude. Kyle Serafin's a good dude. Julie Kelly's a great woman. She sat in my trial. And although all that little group doesn't get along, I don't care. I don't care about the dramas. Okay. I care about winning and winning at all costs. Okay. Even to the detriment of myself. I'm for winning. I think I've proven that. I'm loyal to mine. I'm loyal to my cause. I'm loyal to people. And that'll never change, no matter what. So all those people that disagree, and when it comes out, oh well, her name, I'm not going to use it on your show. Her name, I hope she sues everybody when they say that. I'm like, okay, you know what? I hope she wins the money, and I hope the only thing that she could ever spend it on is ramen noodles from a prison. She could have all these millions and take it from anybody, and take it from the Blaze, and take it from Steve, or whatever she wants. But I hope that the only place that she could spend it is in prison. And I'm not saying that because I'm a bad person or that's all I want from them. That's what they deserve because of what they did. What they did and what they ruined my life, and they ruined my family's life, and they ruined the family and 1,600 others. Okay, there's tens of thousands of people in that, hundreds of thousands of people in that, just they're trying to score political points. All they wanted was to win the 2024 election. They didn't want Trump to win. So those people, I feel no sympathy. Never let evil take root.
I just think it's so stupid. Like they've learned nothing from the Alex Jones situation. They're effectively promoting using lawfare as a weapon, not as a tool for justice. There was zero actual malice in anything Baker did or Blazer did, and it's not.
Yeah, because they were getting information from people within government, reports that were on like the desk of people within government at the highest levels, and so. And so this woman, Kirchhoff, again, I wish no harm to her at all. Obviously, like this has to be peaceful, informing people, education, etc. But people from within government holding their own accountable when they go rogue or when they do things that are, obviously crimes and traitorous and treasonous, etc. And she like the use of force was absolutely there, and I had a point to that with Alex Jones. I had on someone on my podcast, In It to Win It, an incredibly brilliant human being. And I had him on, and he was very obviously he doesn't like Alex Jones. There's a bias there, clearly. Like he was harsh and very direct and to the point regarding his viewpoints. And so I believe that everyone deserves to have an audience and a platform to be heard. And he brought in a lot of good information. And
not being wrong that is tantamount to malice, even if Baker is wrong. And I'm not convinced he is. So it's just stupid. People are it's mob mentality, and they don't really appreciate what they're actually promoting, and they haven't learned from the ills of what has been done in the past on the very same logic.
Yeah.
Someone is asking, critical thought over in locals, is Help Stop Hate only on CommieTube? Does he have a Rumble account?
I think he has a Rumble account. You could ask Dave himself. He's very receptive to the DMs.
Okay.
I only have a Rumble channel. I don't promote it much because we go live on Twitter. I wish I could go Rumble more. I wish they had a static RTMP key.
I think. Oh, do
this
they
is to
have
the
one?
Rumble team, please. Static
I think
RTMP.
they've
Because
got
all my streams, if you go to my Rumble channel, they're all the same name. So I want them to fix that because they have an amazing platform.
You want a static RTMP? Hold on, let me.
Yeah.
That-
It's needed. It's needed because I have to, and I think you had to do it here. You had to create the thumbnail.
Yeah, I did notice that StreamYard, because I don't usually use StreamYard, did say Rumble could be integrated with a fixed RTMP. So I'm going to see if Rumble has one. And then
They have a fixed RTMP. The problem with the fixed RTMP is it doesn't change the title. And now we're getting into nerd stuff here in the middle of the stream, but it doesn't change the title. So like mine says War Boys Live, and we have like 10 shows a day. So like I don't have time to sit there and make an RTMP key for every stream.
Okay, I'll take note and ask them. Neighbor said he had unusually short legs, so obviously not the person in the video. We'll see, says Sparky. I know what I think. All that's gone, good and bad. Just think it's been 10 years. What was I going to say? One last thing. Is there one last thing here? We got Viva Riveting, says Chris Craft 2 over in vivabarneslaw.locals.com. I had hopes for Bondi. This is from Andrea627 for cash for Bongino. I am thoroughly disappointed in the actions thus far. I agree. We don't need vengeance. We need justice. And to ensure this doesn't happen again, appreciate you fighting, Enrique. And I'll end it on this thought. Loyalty doesn't mean not criticizing people. Loyalty does mean criticizing them when they're making a mistake and when they're doing things that are going to compromise their mission on this earth. And so I want Bongino to succeed. I want Patel to succeed. They need to. And that might mean replacing Bondi with someone who's going to do something if their hands at the FBI are tied by their higher up pay to play Bondi, as some people call it. Enrique.
Turn it into a museum.
Well, he should have done that. I don't know that maybe he can't do that. Maybe that's the budget issue. Who knows? But coming out there and celebrating the new office, it's going to be beautiful. Celebrating the staff, which 30% of them participated in this. Those are not Bongino's mistakes. Those are objective mistakes that are irreconcilable with Patel's stated missions, and so he's got to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah,
Enrique, this was amazing. Where can people find you? And I'll put the links in the pinned comment. But people know where to find you. Where can they get you?
So I think. Am I putting it right over?
At Noble, yes, essentially.
Okay, so at Noble One, right down there, at Noble One, and you spell it out ONE on Twitter, and then my network. We have a podcast network. We run a couple shows a day. Great people like Kim Coulter, great people like Barry Ramey, Patriot Rob. They're on there, and you can follow it at War Boys Studios. That's War Boys with an S. Studios, and we have spicy content, and some of the content, that's why we love Rumble, could only go on Rumble because of how spicy it is. So I'm hoping that Rumble gives us those static keys that allow us to change those titles. I'll get with you about that.
Remind me, and I'll bring it to I'm in touch with the tech guy who's they love feedback, so I can give it to them.
As always, so much fun. Had fun with you, man. I hope your guests learned something today, and I hope that they do something. Email the DOJ. You guys that are listening, shoot an email to the DOJ, your local DA's office, or Pam Bondi herself. I don't think she'll answer.
Just to end here, this is it. Never let evil take root. Otoya Yamaguchi, he makes me proud of my bloodline, says Joe Mazcu.
Yes.
Enrique, well, we're going to talk after offline here. Everybody out there, go forth. Tomorrow night, I'll be live with Barnes. Peace out, everybody. Thank you for being here. Godspeed. God bless.
All right. I don't know if you can. My freaking video again. It keeps on going off. But anyways, on that note, I will leave it at that. I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. I got to get to the gym.